Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round in the story of Season 4 of the NXTGEN. Known in full as the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, this is the series that looks to prove who is the best and the fastest in the front-engine front-wheel drive car. Hosted on iRacing and sponsored by Higgins Automotive, we return from our second mid-season break to kick off the final 4 rounds of the season, and we start that conclusion today with round 7 of 10 here in Belgium at the one and only Zolder circuit. A circuit perhaps lesser known compared to its more infamous counterpart, its neighbour, the Circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. This is a circuit that should not be underestimated for its ability to push drivers to the absolute limit when it comes to qualifying. In the fact that this circuit, made up of 10 corners, most of them being chicanes or sweepers, it is a circuit where overtaking is incredibly difficult given the fact you have to be bold on the brakes, but also you've only got short straightaways in order to be able to try and look for a move up the inside. Get it right then in qualifying and you may just be hold on to pole position and track position all the way from lights out to checkered flag. But get it wrong, however, and you may have to battle and bruise your way past other rivals in the field in order to get a good result. And that's going to be on the mind of our drivers as they go racing today. But as we welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side, you can be tuning in right now via one of 3 media platforms you're viewing at pleasure. Firstly, we have the 2 official Next Gen Racing media platforms available, those being on at YouTube at youtube.com, search for Next Gen Racing, and welcome to you there. Alternatively, you may be tuning in via Facebook at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. Welcome to you on Facebook. We also have the unofficial broadcast being brought to you on Twitch. That's at twitch.tv/TX141. And welcome to you guys and girls on Twitch. And you may be asking right now, who is TX141? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Pretty the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll be bringing you all your racing action over the course of this night and indeed the entirety of the season. Well, speaking of tonight, let's take you through our schedule for tonight. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST, and Universal Coordinator Time +1 at UTC +1. And as we can see, in just under 18 minutes time, we'll be heading into our qualifying session. 15 minutes in duration, all our drivers out of the circuit. It's going to be a very crowded circuit, and that pole position being the ultimate goal for everyone, knowing just how important it could be for victory in the first race of the day. Speaking of the first race of the day, that will immediately follow our first of 3 sprint races, all 13 laps in duration, and that will be at 8:15, after which we'll take a brief breather before returning at approximately just before 9 o'clock this evening for the build-up to race number 2. And after that, we'll take another brief breather before returning at 10:45 for race number 3. And all 3 races here are highly tipped to be intense round, and we're expecting plenty of battling up and down the field. And well, with those battles, of course, we've got plenty to go in the championship standings in all 3 of our championships. And let's give you a recap of the season thus far and what we've still got lying in wait. For as we can see here, the calendar now makes its way into the final section, whereby it's the 3rd of October today, and round number 7 sees our drivers head to Belgium for the Circuit Zolder circuit. However, prior to all of this, we started off back in round number 1 on the 8th of August at the one and only Monza circuit, the Grand Prix circuit without the first chicane, and the Italian circuit there absolutely delivering with some absolutely sensational battles, and it really was the story of Doble Sim Racing versus BT Motorsport, with both teams picking up a 1-2 in races at 1 and 2 respectively. And on the 15th of August, we made our way to United Kingdom for the one and only time this season for the Snetterton 300 layout, and there at the Snetterton circuit we saw plenty of drama up and down the field, perhaps the most infamous drama being at Bobby Thompson's unfortunate end to what was his opportunity to take the win in the first race of the day, a major mistake making his way up towards Nelson Corner, and that released Dan Mould to go on through to victory. But we also got to see in race number 3 at Snetterton what was the revival of Matthew Addy's fortunes, in the fact coming on home with a key win in class and overall, and adding his name to a limited list of names in the Pro-Am class of drivers who've taken an overall win in the series. Then in round number 3, we made our way to Road America for the first time in the NXTCC's history, and the American circuit in the state of Wisconsin are absolutely delivering with its infamous chicane bend, and as our drivers made the way around on the 22nd of August, we got to see plenty of battling, quite a few bumpers coming off of cars as well, and it's a circuit we definitely look forward to going back to in the future. Then round number 4, we made our way to Japan, across the Pacific Ocean for the Fuji International Speedway, and there was only one name that stood out on the 29th of August, and it was the prime driver of none other than what was in the form of Russell Fowler, with the Audi RS3 driver for Performance Link Esports absolutely delivering and indeed picking up a huge win right at the end of the day and picking up some major points overall. Then we went our first mid-season break before returning on the 12th of September for the Circuit Charles Villeneuve. We made our way to Canada for the Montreal City Circuit, and then at the Hybrid Street Circuit we got to see plenty of battles between our drivers, and we got to see some drivers fight their way through the field hard and fast, including the likes of Alex Meredith, but we also got to see Mikey Doble once again putting on a stellar display to pick up some key points in the Pro class and the overall championship. And then in round number 6, last time out, we made our way to the recently revamped and reintroduced to iRacing Circuit Zandvoort course in the Netherlands. And on the 19th of September, we got to see the heavily cambered corners carry our drivers on through, and well, what a round it was, with plenty of major stories between all of our drivers, and those stories will continue today. And well, after today, on the 10th of October, in a week's time, we make our way back to Japan for the second time this season for the Twin Ring Motegi Circuit, and well, it's a circuit perhaps less than known outside a major series such as Super GT, but I can promise you one thing: if you've never heard of or seen the Twin Ring Motegi Circuit, you are in for an absolute treat next time out. And in round number 9, afterwards on the 17th of October, we also see the series make its way to Willow Springs Raceway in the United States of America, and the Californian circuit we've been playing host to our drivers for the first time in our NXTCC history, and that's going to be a circuit that's going to be hard and fast, and it's almost going to feel as though it's NASCAR meets touring car meets next-gen racing. And in our season finale, we'll make our way down under to Australia for the Mount Panorama Raceway, but you all know and love it and refer to it as Bathurst in reference to the local town. On the 24th of October, we will be crowning our champions in the Drivers and Teams Championships. Now that appropriately brings us on to the Drivers Championships, and let's give you an update to them. Starting with the overall Drivers Championship, and here we can see Mikey Doble leads the way on 629 points, 23 clear of brother Joseph for Doble Sim Racing. However, the fact with these two are separated by only 23 points, and then there is a sizable gap of almost 40 points to Dan Mould, you would think right now the top two are breaking away. But let's reshape the picture slightly. With the success balance that's applied this season, and the fact that we've seen the two Doble Sim Racing brothers exchange the lead between them at multiple times, there is only currently the best part of 93 points separating the top 6. That's Mikey Doble all the way through to Jamie Dory, with Joseph Doble, Dan Mould, Gavin Garnett and Kieran Sharp in between. And when you've only got 93 points between the top 6, and the fact that you can accrue the best part of 100 points on a given round if you have a perfect result, well, that means that anything can happen before the season is over. But then again, it would be rude of us not to also mention Andrew Pike in P7, who right now is on a rising charge on 518 points and seems to be breaking away from teammate John Higgins Jr., who on 466 points really does draw the line in terms of our top 8, and then the rest of the field trying to play catch up. But then again, in P9 right now, we have our leading Pro-Am driver in the form of Nick Clibbins on 355 points, only 4 points clear of Matthew Addy, with both drivers moving into the top 10 for the first time this season overall, and that means they'll have success balance going into qualifying today and our first race of the day. And Russell Fowler intriguingly falls outside of the top 10, best of SP11, but only 7 points off of Matthew Addy, and it could look as though right now this might be a tactical opportunity for the Performance Link Esports driver, in the fact he won't have success balance going into the qualifying session, and therefore the Audi RS3 could go strong. However, Alan McCain a further 18 points behind in P12, and there's a 5-point advantage at Isaac Doble, and those are your top 5 Pro-Ams in the overall championship, with Lee Horn at P14 ahead of Benjamin McCluskey, who completes the top 15. We then have Reese Watt P16. Keep your eyes out for the JW Motorsport Audi RS3 driver, in the fact that he'll be keen to try and turn things around after a difficult time last time out at Circuit Zandvoort. And then we've got boys Bobby Thompson, Matthew Sheraton, Ian Maz and Alex Meredith completing your top 20. Outside the top 20 on 235 points, it's Paul Scott, who is 20 clear of Luke Jones, with Shane Piggott continuing to fight his way in the midfield of the Pro-Am class there on 205 points, ahead of Ben Altria, and then it's Stephen Daly in P25. Mark Sykes P26 continuing to try and push his way into the top 25. He's only one place off now, but the best part there of what is at 24 points behind, with then Michael Lees, Adam Delman, Josh Millington and Bernardo Colby completing your top 30. Jack Southfield in P at 31 there on 100 points, only 3 outside of the top 30, and he's got a 20-point advantage in return over Neil Ferrier. And it's Dan Holland, Lucas Koch, Jonathan Collins, Daniel Lewis, Ian Wood, Daniel Fritz, Giorgio Belay, and Wayne Douglas who complete your top 40. And then outside the top 40, but not to be forgotten about, Mark Kent, who's only outside the top 40 based on result countback, and he has a 2-point advantage over Joshua Brown, with Andrew Holmes, Costa Constantino, James Affleck, Chris Rance, Jake Pitt, Jonathan Cook, James Spencer-Scale, and Ben Schilstra completing your standings. We then come on to the Pro-Am classification here, and this is the Higgins Automotive Championship. When all the points in the Pro-Am class are adjusted based on class finishing positions, we can see it is 7 points between the top two. Russell Fowler has held on to the lead since last time out. However, Matthew Addy has now moved into P2. It's the highest he's been all season, and he seems to right now be on the rise. And, well, that bad luck is definitely not coming his way anymore, and he'll be hoping it stays away for the remainder of the season. However, Reese Watt, a further 15 points behind, he's also on the charge here. His consistency and his absolute resilience proving strong, and he has a 3-point advantage over Lee Horn, who, whilst has fallen outside of the top 3, you can never count out the next-gen racing driver in the fact that right now his consistency proving key. Nick Clemens completes the top 5 on 562 points, and then we have Isaac Doe a further 15 points behind, with Alan McCain a further 4 points off. We do have a sizable gap to Alex Meredith in P8, but what it does mean is that the top 7 right now are only separated by 54 points. It's all to play for in the Higgins Automotive Championship for our Pro-Am drivers. Indeed, right now, any one of those top 7 could be leading come the end of today. Meanwhile, Alex Meredith in P8 on 492 points. A couple of absent rounds have cost him dear, but at the same time as well, he's had a bit of difficulty in the midpoint of this season, and he'll be looking to try and revitalise his championship campaign and make a late charge. And there's Ian Maz and Matthew Sheraton who complete the top 10, with only a point between the two of them, and it's a further 3 points to Paul Scott in P11, who's best of the rest. Ben Altrier in P12 there, a sizable gap between himself and Scott in the best portion there of what is 50 points or so, and he'll be looking to try and make up a bit more ground. In fact, that's 63 points then. We do the mathematics correct, and he's got a 4-point advantage over Mark Sykes, who is only ahead of Luke Jones based on result countback, and it's Michael Lees for 30 points behind in P15. Shane Piggott, Lucas Koch, Bernardo Colby, Ian Wood, and Georgia Bly complete your top 20, and outside the top 20, it's Jonathan Collins on 186 points, 10 clear of Daniel Fritz, with Daniel Lewis at P23 on 171, well ahead of Mark Kent at the moment. We are expecting Mark Kent to potentially make a return to the racing today, although I've been hearing he's had some technical issues with his equipment, but hopefully he's been able to get those results. We'd love to see him out there for the full Tilt V Motorsport team. And then we have Josh Brown at P25 ahead of Costa Constantino, Jonathan Cook, Chris Rance, Jake Pitt, and James Spencer-Scale who complete your top 30, and then Baz Schilstra who finishes off there in P31, currently only on 8 points. But now we come on to the Teams Championship, and as we can see, whilst our Drivers' Championships are very close, it's incredibly close at the top of the Teams Championship. Double Sim Racing only have a 4-point advantage over the Sim Racing Collective. You could not cut the tension even closer with a knife if you tried to right now. And will both teams here absolutely vying for points, and will both of them eager to try and take the lead of this championship as far away as possible from the other. But Double Sim Racing continue to hold on by a slender margin. Meanwhile, outside the top 2, Next Gen Racing Pink, they are also within arm's reach and 1,195 points, and then we have a sizable gap there in excess of 300 points to Sam Casey with Next Gen P4 on 761. And their goal is going to be best the rest of the remainder of the season and trying to take the first of the non-podium positions in the Teams Championship. They've got to be wary of the fact they do have JW Motorsport and iRacing Esports, both teams on a charge over the last couple of rounds and both inching close here, with JW Motorsport inside the top 5 and iRacing Esports just outside of it in P6. Team SRL, P7 ahead of Mark Sykes Designs, only by the best part of 44 points there, so we do have a battle for P7 starting to grow, and both of these teams eager to try and find their way into that top 5 fight as well. And there's Performance Link Esports and Chemical E Motorsport who complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, Best SP11 at BT Motorsport, they're falling outside the top 10 for the first time this season. Now we're looking to try and get some more points over the course of the remaining rounds, but they're ahead of Aztec Racing, with Team Forex over KC Motorsport P13, Full Tilt V Motorsport P14 ahead of Ace of Spades Racing, and then to round off the Team Championship is Whiskey Runners with Next Gen, Stone Cold Digital HHR, and CS KCM Mally Motors, who are 18th and last place currently, only by 4 points versus Stone Cold Digital HHR. Well, that's a recap of the Teams Championship and indeed all of our championships, so let's talk a little bit about our circuit for today. For we are in the region of Heusden Zolder in the northern Limburg region of Belgium, and this Circuit Zolder Grand Prix circuit, as you can see from the circuit map provided to us by iRacing.com, thank you to them for their wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it, is a very tricky circuit. Made up of 10 corners and the majority of them being sweepers or chicanes, we do have 4 major chicanes to talk about here, as well as 3 key sweeper corners, and when you put it all together, what it does mean, this is a circuit where you need to be smart on on the brakes, and you need to know how late you can brake into a corner in order to be able to hold on to lead. And we wouldn't be surprised if we do see quite a few dives and lunges under battling today. But as the drivers make their way across the start-finish straight, they'll make their way into the long left-hander of Esther at turn number 1, and the first half of the lap really being occupied by sweeping corners. They'll go for the late apex left-hander, carrying all the speed before bringing the car into turn number 2 at stern blocked, and as they make their way into the right-hander, it's all about getting back to full throttle as soon as possible, albeit mitigating the understeer as they then head through the kink of turn number 3 at Canal blocked and up towards Lucien Bianchi blocked at turn number 4. They're coming through the right-hander. If you run wide out there, you're going to cost yourself all the speed on one of the longer straights of the circuit, but it's still a short run down towards the Kleiner chicane at turn number 5. Now our drivers will need to be careful about the apex curves, which can easily unsettle the car. But get it right, they'll carry all the speed all the way up towards Bitter at turn number 6, and then the downhill run through the long left-hander, they'll need to bring the car up to speed and into the right position on the left-hand side of the road if they want to get it right going into the turn 7 chicane. Known as Talarman Bocht in reference to the local township, this corner and also the circuit previously known as Circuit Talarman. Our drivers will be making their way through the right-left-right combination there, and as they make their way out of the double right sweep, they'll head up the hill and down into what is the right-hander hairpin at turn number 8, and will the slice corner on the circuit known as Boulder Bahar Spielbocht. As they make their way through that right-hander, they'll then come through Jochen Rittenbocht to the flat-out chicane at turn 9 and make their way out towards the final chicane, the fourth and final chicane of Jackie Ickbocht at turn number 10, and will there, as our drivers make their way through the left into right-hander, they'll find themselves having to negotiate a run which will set them up with all the speed onto the start-finish straight, only to do it all over again. But as we now come on to our rules, let's give you a reminder of the rules without which we can't go racing. And as we can see, setup-wise, this is a fixed setup series with all setups provided by the NXTGEN racing officials ahead of each and every round. Driver class-wise, the classes were finalised as of round 3. We do have a new driver on the grid today, and we will introduce them very shortly for you, and they'll be in the Prime class, so keep your eyes out for them. Otherwise, there are no class changes as of this round, as far as we are aware. Sprint race-wise, the Race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, that's a given, and then we have the Race 2 grid being set based on results of race number 1, so that means the winner of race number 1 starts on pole for race 2, and we work the grid that way. Then race number 3, we've seen the grid being set as a reverse grid based on results of race 2, albeit with the caveat, the reversal position for this grid is being drawn live from the commentary booth between P13 and P23. And just to remind you, we'll be cutting to the commentary booth, and I'll be shuffling the NXTGEN Racing Lottery Bowl. We pull two numbers out of the bowl, and we add those together, and that gives us our reversal position for the final race of the day. Now, there are no pit stops expected in any of the races, but if we do see our drivers coming to the pits, it may be for repairs, of which they'll have one fast repair available in each race. Alternatively, it may be for penalties, and we'll come on to those shortly. But keep in mind that each race shall conclude either after the allotted lap amount, which is 13 laps, that equates to about 21 minutes, or 30 minutes if the race goes to time due to a safety car or two. Now, speaking of race stewarding, an independent race director shall be stewarding the races for track limit infringements and deployment of safety car. And with regards to those track limit penalties, the first and second warnings, there are no penalties applied. The third warning is a 5-second post-race time penalty. The fourth warning is a 10-second post-race time penalty. And on the fifth warning, it's a drive-through penalty that must be served within 3 laps of being awarded. Meanwhile, racing incidents between drivers shall be reviewed post-round. And then lastly, but not least, the success ballast. Just to remind you, the success ballast is applied on a race-by-race basis this season. And for qualifying in race 1, it is applied based on the top 10 drivers in the overall Drivers' Championship, which we talked about a little bit earlier, and the standings prior to the given round today. And then race number 2, we'll see that success ballast revised, and it'll be applied to the top 10 overall finishers in race number 1. And we do the same again for race number 3, based on the top 10 overall finishers in race number 2. So therefore, it is a constantly evolving success ballast. It means that a driver who's got a lot of weight in race number 1, well, if they have a difficult first race of the day, they may suddenly find themselves in a much lighter car and able to make a counter-attack in race number 2 and such forth. And as you can see, the success ballast there ranges from 56.1 kilograms for our championship leader or our race winner in a given race, all the way down to 4.7 kilograms for the 10th place driver. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way back to circuit side here, because that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. You're all here for the racing, and so am I. And as we do look to our new driver on the grid today, which is none other than Crest Autosports, the privateer of Nigel Stock, as he makes his way around there in the Audi RS3. And we're running a throwback livery, I do believe, to what is the 90s era of the Super Touring Car, or the British Touring Car Championship as it's known nowadays, but it really was the Super Touring era, and that's the livery in reference to the old Audis that were on the grid. Lovely livery to see there. And well, good luck today to the Englishman in the number 22. You'll normally see him in the Next Gen Racing at GT3 League, one of the biggest contenders in that league currently within his given class, I believe in the bronze class. But here today, or making his debut on the grid from the NXTGEN. And I do wonder whether he's thinking about committing to a full season with regards to Season 5. And we're not going to talk too much about Season 5, more on that to come towards the end of this season. Indeed, a lot of planning going on currently. I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying Season 4 so far, Season 5 is going to take things to even the next level. And we keep saying that, but let's stay with Season 4 right now. The fact that really the season has taken the race into the ultimate extreme in terms of how close it has been all season. As we get ready to go racing, we do say hello to a good number of you in the respective chats. In particular, we can see in the YouTube chat, we do have Spinks 1985 who is cheering on Dan Mould. And I believe right now Mould may be in the pit lane. We can't quite see him out there on circuit currently. So therefore, we'll look forward to seeing him out on circuit in due course. But meanwhile, as we look to Joseph Doble here, with only 1 minute left on the clock before we go into qualifying, we'll do keep in mind, of course, that Joseph Doble right now P2 in the overall Drivers' Championship. There's no individual Pro Class Championship. The Pro Drivers simply do have that one championship they do contest, and well, right now that overall championship very close at the top end between the double sim racing brothers of Mikey and Joseph, and both drivers very eager to get things right. But as they make their way on down here, well, we do currently have the best part of what is 31 drivers in attendance here, so slightly lower numbers compared to perhaps the last couple of rounds, but I do think that some drivers may be on late summer holidays and indeed negotiating those, and also this may be a round where some drivers are opting to use it as their drop score round, given the fact there is one drop score round over the course of this season. But as we do look to Matthew Sheraton in the Aztec Racing Machine, the 390 driver there, getting a little bit sideways, coming on through the Kleiner chicane, and well, the number 390 Honda Civic Type R, a car which definitely has captivated the minds of many in the Prime class. But do keep in mind that in terms of the cars and the balance performance today, we are expecting the Hondas to perhaps struggle here a little bit with the raised curves, given the fact the Honda Civic Type R, its suspension setup is very bouncy with regards to the high curves, and what that means is when the car comes down off the curves, it is heavily unsettled and drivers can struggle to get the power down or return to power immediately compared to, like, say, the Audi RS3, alternatively the Hyundai Elantra. But as we have the checker flag come out on this final practice session, it's time for qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. 15 minutes. Who's going to be on pole? Let's find out. So as all of our drivers now get ready to make their way down the pit lane, you can see them already populating the garages and making their way out. It is going to be a rush to get out onto circuit, and this qualifying session is going to be absolutely pivotal in terms of who is going to have an opportunity to really go for the win in the early stages of the racing today in race number 1. And when we say hello in the Facebook chat there to John Meredith, who says, "Hi guys, Alex can't be with you tonight, but we'll be avidly watching later. Good luck to everyone tonight." And well, it's a shame we don't get to see young Alex out on circuit, but thank you for the heads up, John, and we wish him all the best, and we wish you and the family all the best as well, because we do know that Meredith Motorsport, under the banner of what is Chemical E Motorsport, a family effort, and indeed I can imagine right now John absolutely itching to see who is going to be doing well in the Prime class and probably relaying that information on to Alex's son. But as our drivers get themselves set and ready to go here, what is going to be expected in this qualifying session? What does it take to get the ultimate pole lap here at Circuit Zolder? Well, the key point about the lap around here is that slipstream is just as important as it is about getting the chicanes absolutely right. And the fact, if you take a lot of slipstream on the lap but you don't nail the chicanes, you are going to lose a lot of time, and therefore I think a lot of our drivers will be investing in nailing the lap under their own volition first and foremost before worrying about picking up a significant tow. The tow around here is worth about 2 attempts at most, perhaps 3 attempts if you get the perfect tow, but more important is getting the right corner exit. But at the same time as well, it's a relatively long lap around here despite the fact it's a short circuit, and therefore our drivers will have quite a few laps in order to get things right, but they won't have a huge number of laps compared to a much shorter circuit perhaps, such as what we're going to see at Willow Springs at Raceway in round number 9, where the circuit length there is going to be quite short, given the fact it's a very fast lap indeed. As we say hello there to Mr. BF John, who's cheering on Dan Mould as well. I do believe we look to Giorgio Belay as we do see the Stone Cold Digital HHR driver. He's representing the HHR, making his way on through turn number 10, coming through Jackie Equal chicane, and as he makes his way out of the corner here, well, he does have a couple of drivers close behind, including what I do believe there is Joseph Doble as he makes his way on across the line. And with Joseph Doble right now right on the rear bumper line as they head into turn number 1, so that might be a bit of a missed timing there from the Doble Sim Racing driver. Keep in mind, as they all go into their first flying laps, they all have the right to deliver that lap, and indeed the lead driver, unless they make a major error on the lap, they have the right to dictate the pace, given the fact they are on effectively what is a valid lap, albeit Belay no longer on a valid lap as he goes wide. They're coming out of 2 into 3, carrying a bit too much much speed, and the car bouncing wide on the exit curve as he now recovers and tries to steer clear of other drivers making the way on through. But meanwhile, as he makes his way on around, we do look to one of our other drivers here in the form of, I do believe, Mark Kent, who we do see on the grid here today. And I think those technical issues he was experiencing have been mitigated as the minimum. They've not been resolved completely. And we'll full tilt the motorsport right now do have multiple drivers out of the circuit. It's great to see Kent back once again as he makes his way on down. We have a driver going a bit slow there on what is the outside run down towards the client chicane. I believe that's Lee Horn trying to get off the racing line, and everyone making the way on through. And in terms of the balance of performance of the cars around here, as we said earlier, we're expecting the Honda Civics to struggle a little bit, particularly if they hit those raised curves hard. But meanwhile, at the other end, we are expecting the Hyundai Velocitors to go quite strong here, given the fact it's a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none car, which will bode well for the car around here. The Hyundai Elantra always a threat in qualifying, given its one-lap pace, and tyre degradation being at the other end of the spectrum, the race can hold it back. And the Audi RS3s, we do know they can be quite finicky over the curves. It depends on how they hit the curves in particular. The Audi RS3 drives also with that very aggressive gearbox, where the car always wants to be one gear higher compared to its rivals. The Audi drivers here definitely going to have to work hard, but if they put in the work, they may just be able to deliver some phenomenal laps. But as we have those lap times starting to come in, let's give you an update on those weather conditions here. And well, as we can see, 31 degrees centigrade track temperature, ambient of 18 degrees centigrade, so relatively cool conditions compared to what we've seen in some of our other rounds earlier in the season. So therefore, drivers will be able to push quite hard here today in Belgium, but the key point being around here that right now it all comes down to that one lap. And in the race as well, with those lower track temperatures, it does mean the Elantra drivers won't be as perhaps concerned about the front tyres going off compared to what we've seen in previous rounds, particularly last time out what we saw at Circuit Zandvoort, when those track temperatures absolutely rose to a peak at one point in the races. And it was only in the final race today we got to see those temperatures come down. The Elantra drivers no longer having to worry about protecting those tyres as much. So therefore, these conditions definitely will be working for all drivers, but particularly the Elantra drivers out there. But meanwhile, after one lap being put on the board, it's Benjamin McCaskey in the Hyundai Veloster who takes the initial provisional pole position of a 39.547. Only half a tenth faster than Wayne Douglas, and then Dan Mould at P3. That's your top three. They're all pro drivers. And then we do have this man that we said to watch out for, in the fact he really is right now on the ascendancy. He is your pro and provisional pole sitter, P5 overall at Reese Watt, as he makes his way on through there, the turn 8 hairpin once again. And as he makes his way down towards turn number 10, getting ready to make his way onto the brakes here. Does have some close company in front of him as well. I do believe that is the car, unless I'm very much mistaken there, of John Higgins Jr., who loses the rear of the car, catches it in time, but didn't want to have to back off the accelerator there in order to give some space. We'll have to wait and see. It is a compromised lap for Wes Higgins Jr., but Reese Watt does go back to original pole there in the Prime Class P3 now, on a 39.568. P3 overall, we should point out, but Kieran Sharp has stepped up to the top, and Dan Mould immediately breaks into the 38s here, as Adam Delmont follows him on through. But Dan Mould put in the best 38 in so far of a 38.5 at 6.8, and the SRL driver definitely here making more and more ground. And well, as he makes his way on through turn number 2 into 3, he's got the tow of a couple of cars in front of him there. In particular, he does have the tow of, I believe that's Andrew Pike just in front, and he'll be grateful for that. But at the same time as well, you'll know he's got to do the hard work, and he does have quite a few cars trying to latch onto the back of him. And of course, now it's going to be follow the leader for a lot of drivers here, as a good number of drivers will be studying what he's doing to see how he's finding that extra lap time as they all make their way into the client chicane. But as they do so, we look over to Nigel Stock as he makes his way on through the last corner here, coming on through the turn 10 chicane and makes his way to line. Currently P18, our second lowest place prime driver with a lap on the board, albeit I think right now Matthew Addy's lap may be more of a warm-up lap. And Nigel Stock moves up to P14 there, P7 prime class on a 40.138, so making some more headway here. I think just trying to find his feet as time goes on. But as he does so, meanwhile we look back to the Sim Racing collective driver here of Kieran Sharp, or Sharpie as he's known to his colleagues in the team, and as he makes his way out to turn number 10 and on towards turn number 1. Well, right now the Honda driver here hits the timing line. Is it going to be an improvement or is it not? It's not going to be an improvement in the end from Kieran Sharp, and indeed he stays P4 for the time being as he makes his way on through. Well, meanwhile we've got a few drivers who've yet to get a lap on the board, including Paul Scott as he makes his way up through the final chicane, and well, the same cases at UK Machine making its way to the timeline in its red and black livery. But what can Paul Scott do do right now, given the fact he's got no time at the moment. Where will he pitch himself in this qualifying session? Well, as he crosses the line, it's not a valid lap. He's going to have to go again. Meanwhile, surprise lap there from Joseph Doble, who goes P10. The HHR Wisconsin Cold Digital Driver drops to P11, giving Nick Clemens moved into P9, but still, that right now is P4 in Pro-Am, with Russell Fowler moving up to P9, so it does look as though Doble really enjoying this circuit, and we've not seen Joseph Doble qualify this high this season or be inside the top 5 in qualifying within this class, but right now he definitely seems to be hooked up at this circuit, and well, that Hyundai Elantra looking good in his very capable hands. He runs a little bit wide out of turn 4, but he'll get away with that just about, but as he makes his way on down, decides to do a little bit of weaving there, try and get the dirt off the tyres as he comes on down and gets himself set up for the second half of the lap. I think this lap now is going to be more of a setup as he charges and jumps over the apex curve down the first part of the Kleiner chicane, and again the Elantra drivers are able to get away with that much more easily compared to say the Honda Civic Type R drives, and that's where the suspension setups on the car really do make the difference with the current balance of performance and those fixed setups being combined together. But meanwhile, as we do look from him, we look up to your provisional pole sitter in the crown class of Joseph Doble, currently P4, and as he makes his way into the last 2 corners here, very shortly we're going to jump on board with the number 65 driver for a flying lap of this circuit as he makes way on the final corner, and without further ado, it's the Joseph Doble to take us around for a lap of the Grand Prix lap of Circuit Zolder. He makes way across the timeline and in towards turn 1, and braking about 100 metres from corner apex, 3rd gear, early apex there, and brakes in the car in order to rotate it through. Now bring the car over to the left hand side for turn number 2, onto the brakes from 4th gear, down to 3rd, holds it in 3rd there as he connects the dots together with the first apex, gets the power down, then through turn number 3, flat out here up to 4th, and as he makes way up towards turn 5, using the escape road on his left hand side there as his brake marker, braking about 80 metres from corner apex. Misses the apex slightly, misses it by a couple of inches, and as a result, that's going to cost him 1 to 2 miles an hour in the run down towards the Kleiner chicane. Brings the car into the right hand side, looks at his brake marker, braking about 50 metres on the corner apex, down to 2nd gear, bounce the car with the curve, short shifts to 3rd there, you'll notice, as he transitioned onto the 2nd chicane curve to settle the car down, as he also went full throttle, down through bitter at turn number 6, keeps the car over to the left here, onto the brakes, 100 metres from corner apex into Limburg corner, down to 2nd gear, straight lines between the 2 apex of the chicane, then gentle on the throttle through the first right hand to conclude the chicane sequence, and now flat out as he makes way for the 4th and final part of Limburg and over the rise, and now down towards turn number 8. Heading towards the braking zone, braking 100 metres ball down the left hand side, down to 1st gear, slice corner on the circuit, holding 47 miles an hour at the apex, now on the power here as he makes his way through at the Ockenbrink box chicane and up towards Jackie Gilbert chicane at turn number 10, and in fact lifts off the throttle there slightly, not too happy with this lap, so he's going to get himself set up for another lap here. He wasn't a personal best in the middle sector, so I think he'll feel as though that time is coming right now. Joseph Doble having to go again, but we're going to leave his car now and let him get on with another lap here as he has brought us a lap of the Circuit Zolder course, and a lovely bit of driving there from Joseph Doble. Albeit I think it's now going to be fine margins if he is going to improve further, given the fact that he is P4, and what he's going to have to improve now with Reese Watt hot on his heels, only 2 tenths off. Joseph Doble goes up to P4, Andrew Pike up to P5, albeit Pro drives jumping ahead of the primes there, but Joseph Doble and Reese Watt, there's nothing between them. Only what is the best part, it looks as though of 200s, 2.5 if that. As they make the way on around, Gavin Gardner moves up to P9, and we say hello there in the YouTube chat to John Higgins. I do believe that's John Higgins Sr., who we'll be hearing a little bit from later on today when we do talk about the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day, and well, he'll be cheering on Son Jr. And speaking of Jr., where is he currently? Well, John Higgins Jr. currently down in P23, holds 2nd off of the pole sitter lap by Adam Delmont. I think right now maybe he's just trying to find the right lap and the right time to deliver that lap, given the fact we're 31 cars out here, whilst it's not a grand total of 50 cars compared to what we saw at the start of the season. There's still a lot of cars out on circuit, and we can see on the circuit map in the top right corner of your screen in the fact that this circuit right now is very crowded on the second half, and everyone trying to get the toe for one another, but also trying to deliver that lap, and it only takes a bit of a misjudgment by what is a couple of tenths of a second in terms of the gap between you and the driver in front, and that can be an entire lap spoiled before you've even been able to get halfway around the circuit. But we do see Higgins Jr. making his way down towards turn number 10 here. Into the braking zone he goes. Hyundai Elantra all fired up and onto the anchors. Through left into right. You can see that the car almost drifting in, given the amount of rear brake bias he'll be running on that car in order to get the rear brakes to do a little bit more work and try to offset the understeer that's native to these touring car racing machines. As he crosses the line. What's it going to be this time? He jumps all the way out to P3. It's a good lap from Higgins Jr. at 38.491. Only a 10th off of the pole lap set by Adam Delmont. Joseph Doble just sneaks in behind there, 100th off in P4. But these lap times continue to tumble down with 3 minutes left on the clock. And as he makes his way through turn number 2 into 3. Also off tracks, another big factor here, and a good point raised there by John Higgins in the YouTube chat in the fact that with these chicanes around this circuit, you want to cut them as much as possible. Perhaps the biggest prevailing criminal of the chicanes is to alarm box at turn number 7. The fact you want to straight line over the 2 apex curbs there, but cut them too much and immediately your lap is invalidated. And also to run out of turn number 4, coming out of the right-hander, as we've just seen Michael Lees do so in the yellow and black machine here, making its way down towards the braking zone in the Hyundai Veloster. And well, as soon as you do run wide, it's an invalidated lap and you've got to wait to go over again. As we also say hello in the YouTube chat there to Handsome Stew, who's looking wonderful as always. And well, how are you doing? Well, Handsome Stew. Well, Michael Lees right now making his way down to turn number 7. Through the right into left he goes. There's a little bit of traffic jam here. He does have what is the JW Motorsport machine in front. That's the number 52 of what is, I do believe, Ian Manners, who's actually on for a very strong qualifying session at the moment. And will the JW Motorsport Honda Street Type R driver definitely hooking things up here, and Reese White, his teammate, just in front by the best part of what is 400. So very little between them, but neither of them able to usurp what is Isaac Doble, their P8, as they make their way on down here. Everyone will now start to be getting ready to go on to their final qualifying lap if they're not already onto it, given the fact we've got less than 1.5 minutes left in this qualifying session, and therefore our drivers now will be feeling that pressure. As we do see Manners run slightly wide out of turn number 10. He'll get away with that, but not much more. Meanwhile, Adam Delmont raises the bar for that pole lap to a 38.371, 7.5 hundredths faster than Joseph Doble, improves to P2 on a 38.447. Dan Mould not able to improve currently, but where is Mould out on circuits? The big question. Well, he's a man amongst this long train of cars. He's running everyone around right now, and I think trying to stay in amongst the group as they make their way in towards turn number 4. And I think Mould just aiming to try and get himself on the front 2 rows of the grid here to give himself an opportunity. You can make overtakes and run down towards turn number 1, that open lap. Presuming the drivers in front of you don't get as good of a launch. We've got John Higgins Jr. in the pit lane, so his qualifying session will be done and dusted. Mark Kent the same, and one driver yet to get a lap on the board is Sam Smith and Ian Wood as well. But meanwhile, new pole sitter here at the close of the session. He's gone on to one more lap as well. He's in the distance there, but that is Benjamin McCluskey, who's currently taken pole on a 38.14. That is 2/10 faster than what anybody else has been able to achieve. Do keep in mind McCluskey does not have any success ballast in the car in the Hyundai Veloster, so therefore he will have an advantage of the fact he's not having to carry the weight, and he's got the car in the ideal condition. Also low fuel in the car as well, and perhaps a fresh pair of tyres, or at least tyres that definitely been fully warmed up and ready to go. But McCluskey right now are really raising that bar high. I don't think we're going to see a 37 in this qualifying session. I think that'd be optimism there, but we are seeing, as the checker flag comes down, is some very strong qualifying laps. And will Kieran Sharp meanwhile crosses the line. He's currently P7. Can he improve? Improved in the first half of the lap for the most part, but didn't in the second half. Fell a little bit behind there compared to what he was targeting. Isaac Doble stays P8 at the moment, does not improve. Well, that's provisional pole currently in the Prime class, but can Reese Watt or Ian Manners find a way to jump ahead? Watt crosses the line. He does not improve. He just misses out. Manners the same as he comes across the line, so they stay where they are. Paul Scott just behind as well, stays P13. We've got a car into the wall, I think, there in the rear of the picture. Can't quite get the camera on who that was. We will try and understand, but meanwhile, we've still got plenty more drivers making their way on through the final chicane. Nick Clemens moves up to P14 on 38.769, so a late effort there from Nick Clemens at iRacing Esports. We then do have Alan McCain cross. Oh, goodness me, and that's 2 cars in contact as they make it across the line. That is, I think, Adam Delmont and the HHR with Stone Cold Digital car, Georgia Belay, but they make the way through. Mark Sykes moves to P25 now, 39.178. We also see Matthew Addy improve, but stays P23. Sam Smith puts a lap on the board. It's good enough for P28 there on a 39.629, but a bit of a struggle in this qualifying session for Sam Smith. And the last driver making the way around, in fact, they're coming into the pits, will be Nigel Stock. So in the end, ladies and gentlemen, 31 drives registered for the qualifying session, 30 put times on the board. On overall pole, it is Benjamin McCluskey by 2 attempts there over Adam Delmont, and meanwhile it will be on where's the full throw of the grid. You will have your prime pole sitter of Isaac Doble. He takes P8, but he has the JW Motorsport pair of Reese White and Ian Manners on row number 5 immediately behind him, and that is going to set us up for a very tasteful battle into turn number 1, or at least through the first couple of corners in the battle for the prime lead between the Doble Sim Racing Giant and the JW Motorsport pair as they look to make their way to the pit lane now. And Ian Manners with one of his strongest qualifying performances of the season, and we'll credit to him in the fact he's absolutely delivered it at a circuit where qualifying is absolutely critical. And as he makes his way into the pit lane here, we are only moments away now from going green flag racing for the first time today in round number 7 of 10 of the NXTGEN Season 4. And the big question on the minds of our drivers right now is, will it be McCluskey or Delmont who's leading after the first corner? And will Doble be able to keep what Manners behind, given the fact he'll have a two-pronged attack from the JW Motorsport pair immediately behind him, as our drivers who are out on circuit still are just cooling down and making their way into the pit lane. And well, it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for race number 1. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our first race of the day. It's Benjamin McCluskey who takes pole position overall for Next Gen Racing on 38.143, 2.2 tenths clear, and Mark Sykes Designs Adam Delmont. Then on row number 2, it's Double Sim Races Joseph Doble, who's joined by SRL's Dan Mould, with row at number 3 then going to John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective and teammate Andrew Pike. On row number 4, we've got the pair of Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective and your pro and pole sitter of Isaac Doble for Double Sim Racing. And on row number 5 to complete the top 10, it's the JW Motorsport duo of Reese Watt and Ian Manners. On row number 6, starting P11, it's Lee Horn for Sam Case for Next Gen and Mikey Doble, P12 for Double Sim Racing, and a good qualifying session there and keeping himself within reach of the top 10. Paul Scott starts P13 on the 7th row for Sam Case for Next Gen, joined by iRacing Esports Nick Clibbins. And you have Next Gen Racing Pink Stewart of Wayne Douglas and Gavin Carter on row number 8, with Russell Fowler and Ben Altrier for Performance Link Esports and Full Tilt V Motorsport on row number 9. Completing the top 20, it's Jack Southfield for the Sim Racing Collective and Next Gen Racing Pink's Jamie Dory, with Dory having a difficult qualifying session, it would seem. Matthew Sheraton starts P21 for Aztec Racing on the 11th row of the grid, joined by Mark Sykes Designs Michael Lees, and then Matthew Addy for Sam Case for Next Gen and iRacing Esports is Alan McCain on row number 12. Row number 13, P25, it's Mark Sykes and Mark Sykes Designs. He's joined with Scone Cold Digital HHRs at Giorgio Belay, P26. On row number 40, it's Nigel Stock in his debut for Crest Autosport and Sam J. Smith for iRace Esports. And then on row number 15 to complete the top 30, it's Jonathan Collins for Whiskey Runs with Next Gen and Full Tilt V Motorsports Mark Kent. And then last but not least, on row number 16, starting P31, it'll be Ian Wheel for CS Sim Racing with Mally Motors. But that's the grid, ladies and gentlemen. And now our drivers are all set and ready to go. And well, we are only the best part of what is seconds away from seeing the lights out. And well, when we do, who is going to be leading after turn 1? Will it still be Benjamin McCluskey who's got the inside line, or will it be Adam Delmont? And we know that Honda can be launched incredibly quickly off the line. Well, it's time for the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for our first race of the day here at Circuit Zolder. And McCluskey has got the better start out of himself and Delmont. Delmont in fact stalling by looks things a little bit. Joseph Doble looking for a move out and go defensive versus Dan Mould. And as they all make their way into opening corners, Isaac Doble has held off the JW Motorsport pair of Wes Watt and Manners as they try to fight their way out the inside there. But Isaac Doble holds the outside run to the inside of 2. And as they make their way into a break in here, through the right hand they go. And McCluskey a very poor run through 2 into 3. And that's going to be Delmont up the inside as he makes his way through the right hand. And Delmont takes the lead. And meanwhile, Dan Mould ahead of Joseph Doble as they make their way through turn number 4 for the first time of asking. Through the long right hander they go, and now onto the short straight in the run towards the decline of chicane as they come charge on down here. All the drivers have got away safely, and have all side the opening couple corners. Oh goodness me, it's gone wrong in the rear of the pitch. That's Mark Kent and Giorgio Belay have got it wrong, but as everyone comes charging down on the break in here, you see Lee Horn going defensive versus Nick Clemens. 3 wide there, and that is going to be Wayne Douglas forcing his way past 2 drivers. Ben Altrier and Jack Southfield. Contact there between Douglas and Altrier, and it's all going to go very wrong as they come back across the circuit, and it's disaster there as everyone tries to collect their cars together. I think that might have been Gavin Garner's Audi RS3 that's just with him as a passenger now as they bring it all back together. Not quite sure that's going to mandate a safety car or not, but still as the drivers make their way through, it's been a bit of carnage there coming on through the Kleiner chicane, and will some have gained, some have lost, and Ian Wood right now having started from the very back of the grid. The CS Sim Racing Mally Motors drivers moved up the P24 and has just stayed out of trouble. But as they make the way on through, we do look here to Jack Southfield, who has been one of the biggest gainers in the pro class since the start of this race. The Sim Racing Collective driver gaining 2 places in class 6 overall. And well, as he makes his way on through, we will have a safety car, ladies and gentlemen, on the next lap. So therefore, we are racing at to the start finish line. And well, as they make the way on down here is Adam Delmont, who leads after 1 lap of race. He took lead off Benjamin McCluskey coming out of turn number 3, but now the safety car is out on circuit, and as they make the way on through, we can see Mikey Doble there absolutely itching to try and find his way on around the outside of what is Ian Manners, but now he's going to be made to wait as we do try to salvage the bits of the cars that are out of the circuit. And indeed, we've got a number of drivers in the pit lane currently having their cars repaired. And as they make the way on around here, well, it's definitely going to bring a little bit of a stop to the racing, but we can talk about some of our biggest gainers and losers at the start of this race, and we can see that on the left-hand side of your screen in terms of overall position. And the biggest gainer of them all being Ian Wild, who started from the back of the field. He's moved up to P22. Also, Jonathan Collins as well, up to P21. And speaking of Jonathan Collins, here you can see him. He's just ahead of Wild with what is Nigel Stock just in front as they make their way through the right-hander. And, well, the biggest loser at the start of the race in terms of places lost is Russell Fowler here for Once Think Esports' driver. I think he may have been involved in what was the contact coming out of the Kleiner chicane, which did see Wayne Douglas come together with Giorgio Belai and also Ben Altria. And, well, as he brings his way on through, he's dropped down to P23, 6 places lost overall and in class. So Russell Fowler having a nightmare start to today, given the fact he is your Pro-Am Championship leader currently. And, well, things right now definitely not looking up, but do keep in mind we've got a long way to go in this season still, and on top of that we've still got a long way of racing to go between our drivers. But meanwhile, as they make the way on through, we do say hello there in the YouTube chat to Pullman250, who is cheering on Dan Mould, and also in the Facebook chat there to Katie Eames, who is cheering on, in fact not cheering on anyone in particular at the moment, but saying good luck all and good evening. And, well, I'll make sure not to forget to breathe and drink some water there, Katie, I can promise you that. And, well, as our drivers make the way through, safety car right now leading them around the Mercedes AMG GT4 machine, being driven there by our safety car driver of Gaz Williams. He brings the cars on around, and as they make the way on through here, we'll have to wait and see where we do see the safety car in on this lap. I doubt it. I think we might see it go one more lap, to be honest. But as they make the way on through here, well, right now it definitely has been a bit of a rough and tumble start to this race outside of the top 10. But the key points being here, Adam Delman has taken the overall lead, and Isaac Doble has held on to the Pro-Am lead, as we do see Ian Manners falling back a little bit there in the run on through turn 9 into 10. I do wonder whether Manners is perhaps giving himself some breathing room so that way he can then speed up on the next lap and try to get a bit more tyre temperature in the car and also some brake temperature. But as they make the way down towards turn number 1 here, well, most of the field now back together. We do have the best part of what is 4 cars still trying to catch up to the field, and that's some P28 downwards. So that is Michael Lees, Giorgio Belai, Wayne Douglas and Ben Altria, but I think they are mostly there. I think, in fact, Giorgio Belai is, well, no, he's in the pit lane. In fact, I think it might be a retirement for Giorgio Belai, unless there's been a connectivity issue that's going to be resolved shortly. So you may already have 1 car out of the race, but with that, my gut feeling says that we will be going at green flag racing next time around, given the fact that our cars that are catching up here, you can see in the foreground of the camera, that's Michael Lees and Wayne Douglas in the centre, and then that is at the very back, Ben Altria. Well, they will be on the back of the field by the end of this lap, because whilst it is a short lap with the safety car pace being set right now, they will be catching up. But as they make the way on through here, will we look to the car of what is Nick Clemens. In fact, we jump on board here with the iRacing Esports driver. And, well, he's had a relatively positive start. In fact, he's gained 1 place in class, moved up to P5 in Pro-Am. And we have just had confirmation, ladies and gentlemen, that the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. So we're only spending 2 laps behind the safety car, and then we will have another 10 laps of racing to come for you here at the Circuit Zolder circuit, and that's fantastic news to hear. Albeit I think right now some drivers would have been hoping that perhaps they'd have the safety car a little bit longer, particularly if your name's Adam Delman, all turn to the Isaac Doble, but still they'll look to unleash the racer within them, as Nick Clemens right now will take that information about the safety car being in, and will be thinking about trying to get those tyres warmed up, and also thinking about how he can warm the brakes up. But he won't want to be too far back from Southfield and Watt by the time we come out of turn number 9 and on the run towards the final chicane at turn number 10, for the simple reason the safety car will gradually now start to pull away, and you can already see it has, as Adam Delman makes his way on down. And as he does so, I think in fact Adam Delman may have already gone with the safety car being allowed to go, and it's across the pit line. So we are green flag racing, ladies and gentlemen. Delman's gone immediately as soon as he's seen the safety car pull into the pits, and the Mark Sykes design trial with this launch off the line, where it means that he's already put 7.5 tenths winning cell on Benjamin McCluskey. So it's Delman ahead of McCluskey, followed by Mould, then Doble, Joseph Doble, that is, ahead of Higgins Jr. That's your top 5. Pike P6 at a sharp P7. Prime leader Isaac Doble P8 ahead of Ian Manners P9, and then we have Mikey Doble completing your top 10 with Lee Horn at P11, best the rest. But as they make the way on through, definitely an interesting way of restarting the race from Adam Delman. A very well executed restart, and that gives him a lot of breathing room. Meanwhile, here we have Jamie Dory trying to fight his way up another place, trying to go for P14. This is looking for the inside of Nick Clemens as they come through the right-hander. And as he comes in towards the braking zone, Clemens leaves the door open there. And I suspect Clemens more mindful of the fact he's got to worry about Paul Scott, who is encroaching fast. As we see a bit of a run wide there for Jack Southfield, but that's not going to cost him too much. Meanwhile, Paul Scott getting close here as we jump on board with the same case of the NXTGEN racing driver making his way into the braking zone. Hits the rev limiter there, in fact, as he made his way into the braking zone. That 5th gear of the Audi RS3 being quite short for the 6th gear build-up. And as he makes his way out the corner, we're right now just staying in the toe, but a slow run there out of turn number 5 and through 6 is going to cost him quite dear as he makes his way under braking as he comes on through. Well, Paul Scott right now, I think, just waiting to see if Clemens falls back into his clutches, given the fact the gap between the 2 and 8 tenths. Matthew Cheverton behind as we look back from the rear of the same case with the next-gen Audi. Well, there is the Aztec Racing Honda Civic Type R, and he is getting closer and closer. He's going to look for the mover, is Cheverton. He goes in very late under braking. Scott turns in, there's contact between the 2 of them, and well, Scott is righted in the right direction, but he won't be best pleased with that. I think he'll feel as though that was a lunge and a half from Cheverton, albeit the Honda's got some very strong brakes, but even then, so coming from that far back, I think there Cheverton may have been a bit optimistic based on the camera angles available to us, albeit he might disagree with us there, but to be fair, it's not our call to say. That's one for the stewards if it is taken to them after the race. But meanwhile, behind Matthew Addy here chasing after what is Russell Fallon and Gavin Gardner trying to pick his way past Mark Kent as they make the way onto the start finish straight. But here you can see right now how Gavin Gardner just no pace in the car at this time, particularly after that damage picked up. He's had it repaired, but he's trying to find his way back through, but he's having to deal with a whole medley of what is prime drivers there all together. And will Michael Lease on the inside to the outside now of turn number 2. He's going to try and fight his way around the outside of Kent. Meanwhile, behind us, Wayne Douglas over the back of the rear bumper of Kent as they make the way on around. And Douglas is not going to be able to find his way through. But Lease, meanwhile, still down the outside as they come through free. Kent's not going to back out of this. And right now, number 87, Joe, may not have been in the circuit for a couple of weeks, but I can tell you one thing. He hasn't aged a bit in terms of his racing dynamics. And as he makes his way on down, in the end, Lease will get ahead. And so will Douglas as Kent falls back there. And Douglas finds his way through. But as they make the way into the braking zone, here we can see their Lease offline with Douglas squeezing his way inside to outside, and in the end it will be Wayne Douglas moves in a P26 ahead of Lease, and then Kent's going to try and come back here in the run down the hill. Looks like the inside of the bitter, but he can't quite find it through turn number 6 and now has to wait his turn coming on through it to London box. But meanwhile, we've had Reese Watt pick up the slowdown penalty by looks things coming on through the exit turn number 7. He's lost multiple places as he now brings himself back at speed. He's dropped to P14, that's P4 Pro-Am, and therefore Reese Watt definitely losing a lot of time here in this race. He makes his way up towards turn number 10, charges his way on down, and as they do, well, meanwhile, a little bit further back, we've got Alan McCain. He's behind Matthew Cheverton, so Cheverton has gained another place. He's found it on McCain as they make the way on through turn number 10, and right now McCain trying to come back as soon as possible as they make the way across the timeline and go into lap number 6. But in the foreground, meanwhile, you can see here Clemens versus Watt. Watt's going to look up the inside of Clemens, going all in on the move here. The JW Motorsport Audi sees its prey, it bears its fangs. Will he get it done on the brakes? Well, right now he's on the outside of 2. Meanwhile, Clemens defends in the middle of the road. Look at Lee Horn. Meanwhile, Horn trying to squeeze his way on the inside, using the brakes to Honda to his advantage, and they come through the right-hander. Lee Horn's going to pick up one place here, and well, Reese Watt right now is going to be wondering where on earth did the same case for the next-gen driver find the speed to come on through. That's what happens when you go too wide for these sweepers. You lose a lot of time, and Lee Horn right now runs a bit wide. They're coming out of 4, but he's got the inside run down into the Klein chicane. Watt's on the left of your picture. He's got a nose ahead, but Horn's not going to back out of this, or is he? No, Horn decides to back out. And I think a sensible move from Horn, knowing that right now he's well under the skin of what is their Reese Watt, and he can get into his rival's head and really start to make him wonder when the next move is going to come. As they make the way down towards the London box, meanwhile we look to your race leaders, and that's Adam Delmont going a bit wide out of the exit turn number 7. McCluskey on the inside towards 8. Look at Dan Mould. Mould's following through, trying to make it a two-way pass. He can't quite get it done to take the lead, but Dan Mould gains the place for P2. McCluskey holds on to the lead now, but these guys are incredibly close as they make the way out towards turn number 10. We're only at the halfway point of this race, and Delmont all over the back of Mould now as they make the way down towards turn number 10. Meanwhile, Joseph Doble P4 just behind there in the Doble Sim Racing Veloster, and Andrew Pike not too far off as well. So this top 3 have got to be mindful of the fact that the more they fight one another, they may just end up costing each other the right to break away and take the podium places of their own, and they may see Joseph Doble and Andrew Pike also try to put their finger in the pie. But as they make their way down in towards another lap going into turn number 1, everything stays as is for now. But McCluskey, Mould and Delmont is your top top 3, and in completing the top 5, it's Joseph Doble and Pike. But as they make the way through turn number 2 into 3. Meanwhile, we look a little bit further back down the order to Mikey Doble, who continues to try and make some headway here, but keep in mind he is running with maximum success balance. That Veloster is going to feel very heavy as he makes his way on through turn number 3 in towards 4 under braking. It's going to be quite the juggernaut to stop compared to some of the other cars, and also going for those sweepers, he's not going to be able to carry as much miles per hour by comparison as his rivals, and that all adds up to make it about what is damage limitation here, albeit a P10 right now. We're doing well. He'd only carry a small amount of success balance going into the next race of the day, but he's also got in mind for the fact if he can pick up a couple more places, he'll get a few more overall points. And his main rival, of course, his brother Joseph at the moment is up in P4, so it does look as though Joseph Doble already able to find a way to make the car work, but that was qualifying as well, given the fact that Mikey qualifying P12 and trying to find more headway here, as meanwhile we can see getting very close between his eyes of Doble and Ian Manners. I think Mikey Doble right now looking for a potential move as he makes way over the rise. Manners goes defensive as they head into the braking zone, and will Manners home to defend more and more. You can understand here this is going to work out for the other brother of Isaac in the fact he's impairing your prime leader, and Manners has constantly been all over the back of Isaac. Mikey right now helping his brother out to a degree by distracting Manners, albeit Mikey's also got his own aspirations to gain another place overall and gain some more points in this race. But as they make their way to the braking zone for turn number 10, left into right they go. Right now he's getting the better exits as Ian Manners, and you can see in the fact that whilst that Veloster is gradually faster, albeit the weight holding it back to a degree, by the time they get to the next braking zone it's not enough time for Mikey Doble to be able to look for a move. Instead, Manners can just control the line into the next corner. As they make the way on through there, we have had a bit of an incident further on down between Wayne Douglas and Matthew Addy, and we take a look back at what exactly happened. Well, this was coming out of turn number 7, battling side by side there between Douglas and what was, I do believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, the car Russell Fowler, and in the end Douglas with the contact there of Addy, the two of them coming together in a nasty moment. And well, for the next gen racing at Pink Drive, Wayne Douglas, he's definitely been in the war state, and Matthew Addy, it does seem as though bad luck is coming back his way here at Circuit Zolder. But as they make the way on through, we've had a run wide there. That's Adam Delman who's gone wide coming on through the chicane, and well, as they make the way on down through, so that's going to be Kieran Sharp making his way around the outside for TSRC, gains P5, and Adam Delman losing places here. And now we have two of the Sim Racing Collector cars inside the top 5. Andrew Pike P4, Kieran Sharp P5. That's going to be important in the Teams Championship given how close it is between TSRC and Doble Sim Racing. And as they make their way down towards turn number 8 here, onto the brakes they go once again. Right now, Kieran Sharp will be doing his utmost to try and hold on to that place of Adam Delman for the simple reason there's going to be some big points in the bag and a good starting position for the second race of the day. But as they make their way up towards turn number 10 here, meanwhile, further on back, we do look to Jonathan Collins here, the Whiskey Runners with Next Gen Racing driver, who is making some ground. He's got Gavin Garner behind him, and he's got Mark Sykes in front of him. And well, Mark Sykes right now, the Mark Sykes Designs driver here defending in the middle of the road, but the Veloster of Collins here coming on strong as they come down towards the braking zone. Collins keeps thinking about it, but doesn't go for the move there. I think Fitters ain't get the better run out of the chicane. You can see how close he is, practically glued to the back of Sykes' bumper. But the problem is now in the fact that he's come too close out of the final corner. He can't get the power down here as much as he would like. He's going to look for his Collins. It's going to be a bold move on the inside. It's a very tight run to the inside of Apex, but Sykes outbrakes himself, drifts wide. There was some understeer, and it means that side by side coming through 1 into 2. Now it will be Sykes who defends on the inside here into 2. Collins will look for the cutback. You can see Gardner meanwhile trying to also inch his way into this battle. And again, Collins on the rear bumper of Sykes. They make the way through the right-hander of Frey, and right now Collins has got the momentum. He just needs to find the right place to make the pass and consolidate it as they come through turn number 4. But he's got all that speed, but he's just not got a way to unleash it as they make their way down towards the Klein chicane. But can he look for it here on the inside? He's going to think about it, and will it cause Sykes to outbrake himself, knowing that Sykes nails the apex, and as a result Collins now on the back foot for a brief moment versus Cameron Gardner. As they make the way up the hill, meanwhile just behind Michael Lees here trying to recover his way up the order, battling with Russell Fowler. Looks the inside of puts the quarter, but meanwhile they go to the outside of Talaman box now, and it's going to be Fowler. There's contact between the two of them, and Michael Lees, they're trying to find a way around the outside. That was going to be a very bold move if it was successful, but it didn't quite work out. Now Ben Altrier gets involved there, and will Lees finding that the rear right quarter panel of his car is being nudged about all over the place here, as we then do have the two full tilt V motorsport drivers of Kent and Tree exchanging places as they make their way on through turn number 8, and as they come on through the right-hander, well, now making their way up towards turn number 10 they go, and it's all Tree still ahead of Kent, but right now I think Kent doesn't want to be sat there for too much longer, but as they head on towards the next lap very shortly. Meanwhile, we look to Joseph Doble, who in P3 right now on lap number 10. It does have Andrew Pike, who's got very close here, and it looks like Joseph Doble right now has fallen off at the top two. McCluskey and Mulder have broken away and really started to take P1, P2 as their own, and Doble fighting for that final spot on the overall podium. Pike here looking to try and pick up another podium. A couple of them are coming his way this season, and they'd like one more to go to the trophy cabinet as he makes his way to the braking zone, getting very close there on the braking as they make their way into the left-hander, bouncing over the curves they go, and you can see that Pike just getting a bit too close for comfort as they made their way into the braking zone, and therefore has to back off for the next run. Canfield puts it into the alarm box, but as they make their way in at the turn 7 chicane, again Pike very close down the brake and really feeling as though he can now leverage the Elantra. He's got a lot of pace under the steering wheel of the car as they make the way on through the right-hander and going on around, and a good point there from Handsome Stewart. It's like a dog sniffing another dog. Indeed, that's how close they are right now. But meanwhile, whilst that's playing out, we do have an extremely close battle here, still going for the lead of the Prime class, and that is Isaac Doble holding off Ian Manners. As meanwhile, the inside goes Jack Southfield. Southfield coming in very late in the day under braking. Now I think Manners only seen him in the nick of time, but Southfield, to be fair, sometimes it is all about who dares wins, and daring it to happen and making it happen almost, and that is going to put Ian Manners out of position here as they make their way into turn 10 chicane. Mikey Doble looks around the outside, Manners shuts the door. Meanwhile, Jamie Dury gets involved here, and well, Mikey Doble and Jamie Dury name another pair on circuit that you want to see close together. The two champions of NXTGEN, two-time champion of Dory, one-time champion of Doble, and their rivalry carries on here in P11 as they make the way on through Manners right now. 9, he's got two Titans right behind him, and right now he may feel like a little bit of a mere mortal here when it's a clash of the Titans. Copyright infringement potentially there with regards to the movie title, but as they make the way on through, right now Ian Manners definitely trying to do everything he can in order to hold on and hunt down Isaac Doble. But meanwhile from them, Reese Watt and trying to battle his way out the inside of Nick Clemens. They make their way through the right-hander of turn number 4, and as they come through that right-hander, well, right now it does look as though Clemens holding enough speed, trying to get the momentum, but he can't quite find it on that inside line, and as they make their way down towards turn number 5, well, what they're looking for under braking, but Clemens just out-brakes him, but both of them go very deep. Meanwhile, Lee Horn loses the rear of the car, catches it in time there as he takes a lot of the chicane second curve, and as a result, the same case with NXTGEN Honda, finally settling back down, but again, that proves the point from earlier. We're saying these Hondas very sensitive to those raised curves. If they hit them too high, it causes the whole suspension of the car just to wobble about, and then when you try and get the power down, the car literally becomes limp in your hands. But as they make their way through, I think Nick Clemens has picked up a slowdown there for track limits at Alarm Box, and as a result, going slow, he's also going to release Alan McCain around the outside of him as they go into turn number 8, so it does release Reese White in the end up to P3 in the Prime class, but the point being he's got Lee Horn up right behind him now, and Horn would love to be on that podium as well. But as they make their way on down, we look back to Ian Manners here, who once again has now got his sights firmly on Isaac Doble, but the problem is he's got Mikey Doble right behind him, so therefore in this long concertina effect of cars, it is the pain between them as we ride on board here. Mikey Doble making his way down towards turn number 1, Jamie Dury just behind by 2.5 tenths. They make them into the braking zone. You can see the Double Sim Racing driver here, the bolder of the two on the brakes in terms of able to get nice and close on the rear of Manners, and looks up the inside, he goes all in here under braking. It's a bold move to go in that late, but still he makes it happen as they come through the right-hander when it is going to be Mikey Doble who gets ahead for now by a nose potentially. It's very close between the two of them, but he holds the inside into turn number 4. Manners tries to cut back, he can't in the end. He makes a bit of contact there with the rear panel of Doble's car, but Mikey Doble does take P10 for the time being, and Ian Manners is forced down to P11 when all is said and done. And well, goodness me, the 88 trying to work hard and car into the wall. That's Jack Southfield who gets it wrong coming out the Klein chicane. Car on the gravel, he's trying to roll it off the circuit, he gets off the circuit. That's going to be a tow to the pit lane, and Jack Southfield with a nasty moment. Meanwhile, Kieran Sharp, I believe, has been involved in his Alarm Box, and there he is, the Sim Racing Collective team having a double blow on the penultimate lap, and Kieran Sharp drops all the way outside the top 5, and now the places are leaking past him as he makes his way over the rise and down to turn number 8. It's a disaster for the TSRC as we can see that Jamie Dury looking for the move on the inside of Manners. He gets it and now moves his way on through, and Ian Manners at this point I think may just relinquish wins the battle for the lead of the Prime class. Instead, focus on finishing P2 in Prime instead and get some key points on the board. Also, the fact P10 will take less weight into the next race of the day, and that may just give him an opportunity to go hunting after Isaac Doble once again. But as they make the way onto the final lap, well, we look back to Russell Fowler here with Sim Racing community in the YouTube chat cheering on Russell Fowler, and we say hello to Sim Racing community also to John O'Cook there, who's cheering on Russell as well. And as they make the way on through here right now, Russell Fowler still trying to pick up some more places, but he's in the sandwich. Where's Leeson Altria as they head on towards the final lap of this first race of the day. Heading across the timeline, white flag waving on the left hand side of your screen, and right now this is the battle for P11 raging on between the drivers, and they're not too far off of P10 in the hands of Jonathan Collins as they come on through. But as they do right now, it's going to be Collins defending hard here versus Gavin Garner. Garner looking around the outside, Audi on Veloster here, and as they make their way through, well, Collins can dictate the line there, make Garner work the long way round, and indeed Ilian can't find a way through. Michael Lee's getting quite close there as they enter turn number 4, and Lee's looks for it, he goes all in, and well, it's a very late move under braking, but still, he thinks he can get it done. In the end, at least can't quite get it done, but we have had a major shunt for Ian Manners from what I'm hearing, ladies and gentlemen, albeit it's not on camera at the moment. We will try and find out what exactly has happened to Ian Manners, and in fact we have a quick replay. And this was coming down in towards turn number 5 under braking as he made his way on through, bounced off the curbs, and it all went very wrong there for Ian Manners, the car being turned on around. But meanwhile, we look back to your leaders, ladies and gentlemen, back to your live pictures for making his way out the final corner to take what I believe will be only his second win of the season. It is Benjamin McCluskey who sees the checkered flag, and for Next Gen Racing, he makes it a winner in the first race of the day, ahead of Dan Mole P2 for Team SRL. It'll be Joseph Doble who rounds off the podium there for Doble Sim Racing, ahead of Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective. John Higgins Jr. P5 there in a great drive ahead of Adam Delmont, and Isaac Doble holds on to take the prime win at P7 overall for Doble Sim Racing, and Mikey Doble and Jamie Dory. Kieran Sharp completes your top 10. It is a JW Motorsport car that's runner-up in what is the prime class, but it's not Ian Manners, it's Reese Watton who picks up the pieces that were left behind by his teammate. Lee Horn takes the final spot on the prime podium, P12 overall behind Reese Watt, and then it will be Alan McCain and Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports who round off your top 5 prime drivers, P13, P14 respectively. We still do have one driver to make his way to the timeline. He'll be your last finisher on the lead lap of this race, indeed the last finisher on track as well. It will be Ian Wild who'll be finishing P29 there for CS Sim Racing with Mally Motors. But that is your first race of the day complete, ladies and gentlemen, and what a race it is. Well, it has been, I should say, despite the fact we had two laps under safety car, we still got to see plenty of brilliant battling between our drivers. But between Benjamin McCluskey and Dan Mould, it was fine margins in the end. Once the gap had got up to 8 tenths, it didn't seem to be going anywhere in terms of closing or alternatively extending, and both drivers managing the race well, and McCluskey just one step ahead in this one. But meanwhile, a bit further behind, well, the Sim Racing Collector will be absolutely pleased to get a P4, P5 for Point and Higgins Jr. Some major points there, and that will give them a little bit of an advantage versus Doble Sim Racing going into the second race of the day in terms of points accrued. And what other standout performances include Nigel Stock here on his debut, 11 places gained overall, P7 finish in the prime class, the end of P16 on circuit. And well, as he has a bit of a coming together there with Jonathan Collins, and the two drivers having a little bit of argy-bargy on their cool-down laps, I think just squeezing in between one another, and will Stock there showing respect and waiting for his rival to get the speed back in the car. But meanwhile, from them, a difficult first race of the day for this man, Russell Fowler for Performance Link Esports, not really gaining, losing place at the start and not able to make too many return gains on the counter-attack. And then you can imagine the number 61 driver here will be looking to race number 2 and knowing it is a long road to try and get himself back into the top 10 overall and battling for the podium places in the prime class. But as the drivers make the way into the pit lane, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here they are. And as we can see, after our first race of the day in round 7 of season 4 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, as brought to you on iRacing, hosted by Next Gen Racing and sponsored by Higgins Automotive, Benjamin McCluskey taking the win in the end by 8 tenths of a second for Next Gen Racing over SRL's Dan Mould. It was then a further 3.5 seconds to Joseph Doble for Doble Sim Racing, who completed the overall podium there, and then Andrew Pike P4 for the Sim Racing Collective, leading home a 4.5 for the Sim Racing Collective ahead of teammate John Higgins Jr. 2 tenths was then the gap to Adam Delman, who came on strong late in the race after that mistake at the Kleiner chicane midway through the race, which cost him the chance of a podium. But still, he'll take what was that P6 there for Mark Sykes Designs ahead of Doble Sim Racing's Isaac Doble, who with that P7 overall is your Pro-Am class winner for this first race of the day. Teammate Mikey Doble just behind P8 there, and I think the two brothers trying to work hard together to guarantee Isaac Doble's win, and Mikey Doble gaining some more points back, given this qualifying position of P12. Then Jamie Dory P9 for NXTGEN Racing Pink just behind Mikey Doble, and the best part of a second clear of Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective, who completed the top 10 after that late mistake at Tulum Box Chicane at turn 7 on the penultimate lap. Reswap P11 there, best of the rest, and runner-up in the Pro-Am class for JW Motorsport. What was in the end 7 tenths clear of Lee Horn, who round off the Pro-Am podium at P12 for Sam Case with NXTGEN. And then only 2 tenths behind him, Alan McCain for iRacing Esports, who led home a 4-5 in the Pro-Am class for iRacing Esports of McCain, head of Nick Clemens, and both drivers there coming on quite fast towards the end of the race. We'll need to keep our eyes out for that in the second race of the day. And outside of P14, P15, Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing there, and well, definitely some quite daring moves under braking for Matthew Sheraton, and I think he might be pulled aside after his first race of the day and just asked perhaps to calm it down on the opening laps. But then again, you do know that the Aztec Racing drivers, and you can always count on them to be the ones to go for the moves. They give it their everything, and at the end of the day, we do love to see it from the 390 driver. Then a further second behind, Nigel Stott P16 for Crest Autosport, 2 tenths clear of Paul Scott for Sam Case for NXTGEN, and then completing the top 20, it was Sam J. Smith for iRace Esports, head of Ian Maz for JW Motorsport, with a very unfortunate end to his race after doing so well for so long to be hounding Isaac Doble and still on course for a P2 in the Pro-Am class. That mistake at the Kleiner chicane in the end cost him extremely dear. Jonathan Collins completed the top 20 there for Whiskey Runners with NXTGEN, 2 seconds clear of Gavin Garner for NXTGEN Racing Pink. Then Michael Lee's P22 for Mark Sykes Designs ahead of Performance Link Esports driver Russell Fowler. Mark Kemp P24 for Full Tilt P Motorsport ahead of Wayne Douglas, and the NXTGEN Racing Pink driver ran off the top 25 ahead of Matthew Addy for Sam Case with NXTGEN, Ben Altrier for Full Tilt P Motorsport, and then to complete the top 30, Mark Sykes Designs ahead of CS Sim Racing with Mally Motors Ian Wild, who was the last lead lap finisher there, and then finishing a lap down as classified Jack Southfield for the Sim Racing Collective. He will still be counted as a finisher. And then last but not least, a non-finisher retiring after 1 lap turned, Giorgio Belai for Stone Cold Digital HHR. Now, that was our first race of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We've still got 2 more races to come here, and we'll be back in approximately what will be at 7 to 8 minutes time for the build up to our second race of the day. That'll be at race number 2, another 13-lap sprint, and we've got to see plenty of battles up and down the field in the first race. But who will be coming out on top in the second race of the day? Will it be Benjamin McCluskey who makes it 2 out of 2? All that and more coming up very shortly. We'll see you soon. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for race number 2. We've already had a thrilling race number 1 here at Circuit Zolder, but we've got 2 more races to come. And well, the big question is, will we see repeat winners in the overall and Pro-Am classifications in our second race today? Because race 1 definitely proved one key thing, and that is it is very difficult to master this Zolder circuit, but also to overtake here. And with our drivers having to battle hard and really be as late as possible on the brakes, some made it work, others did not, and many fell foul of the Klein chicanes raised apex curves. But the one driver who absolutely delivered up front was Benjamin McCluskey, and well, as we do look to him making his way around on the circuit currently. And here we can see McCluskey right now making his way around. He'll be keen to make it 2 out of 2, but a good point raised there by Mr. BF John in the YouTube chat, which is McCluskey has had weight added to his car. He didn't have weight going into the first race today or the qualifying session. Meanwhile, we will now see that Dan Mulder have a little bit less weight compared to McCluskey, and therefore it will be a battle between the 2 heavy hitters in terms of the 2 velocities at the front of the field. Meanwhile, Isaac Doble with what was that top 10 finish in the Pro class. He'll have some more weight in the car, but he'll also have in his mind the fact that he'll have the likes of JW Motorsports, Reese Watt hot on his heels behind, and also Nick Clemens and Alan McCain from iRacing Esports, and Lee Horn from Sam Case for NXTGEN. So they'll all be vying for that opportunity to take a win off of him. But just before we do go racing, ladies and gentlemen, we'd just like to take a quick moment to give a special shout out to Davey Muir, a friend of John Higgins Sr., who we'll be hearing from a little bit later today. And close friend of John Higgins Sr., who is recently going through a little bit of a difficult time, albeit on a personal note. We won't go into specific reasons, but Davey, if you are tuning in tonight, and I do believe you may be, well, we here at NextGen are wishing you all the best and hoping that just a little message like this can help turn your frown upside down and make it a smile. But we're sending our love to you, and well, keep on going, good sir. And indeed, we're very happy if you are tuning in right now to have you tuning in with us. But as the drivers get ready to go, only 1 minute left on the clock here, and Clemens rolling his way on through, and as he comes down into the braking zone here, well, Clemens will be feeling as though the first race was definitely a testament to where the pace in the car is, and the same for Alan McCain, as the 2 Veloster teammates, well, not Veloster, I should say, Elantra teammates, both definitely coming on strong as the race went on. But as we do say hello there to David Buer in the YouTube chat, good to see you in the chat there, David, and very pleased to have you with us. We also say hello there to Dan80, who says in the YouTube chat, go the fast boys behind, though JB with less weight. And well, indeed, I believe when we say JB here, I believe that is in reference to, when I'm just trying to get my initials in to my mind here with regards to drives. We've got so many drives out of the circuit, and we have got 10 seconds left to go, ladies and gentlemen, until we make our way to the grid for our second race today. And well, without further ado, place your bets. Who's going to come out on top? Who are going to be our winners? And plenty more, because we are about to find out. It's time for our second race of the day. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for race number 2. It's Benjamin McCluskey who starts on pole position overall for NextGen Racing, joined on the front row by Dan Mulder SRL. Behind them on row number 2 is Joseph Doble for Doble Sim Racing and the Sim Racing Collective's Andrew Pike P4, with the Sim Racing Collective's John Higgins Jr. starting on the third row P5, joined by Mark Sykes Designs Adam Delmont. On row number 4 it's your prime pole sitter of Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing, joined by teammate Mikey Doble P8, and then completing the top 10 it will be the pair. And where's there? Jamie Dory for Next Gen Racing Pink and Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective. We then have Reese Watt and Lee Horn on row at number 6, the next 2 Prime drivers, followed up by Alan McCain and Nick Clemens. Its Primes are plenty here, and then Matthew Sheraton and Nigel Stock on row at number 8. Row 9 goes to Paul Scott and Sam J. Smith, with Ian Maz and Jonathan Collins on row 10 completing the top 20. Gavin Garner and Michael Lisa on row number 11 ahead of Russell Fowler and Mark Kent. And then we do have what is Wayne Douglas and Matthew Addy on row number 13 ahead of Ben Altria and Mark Sykes. We're going to stop there, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for us to go racing. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go once again with a quick sequence of lights, and it's a quick start for Benjamin McCluskey as they make their way down. Plenty of 4 wides further back down the order. A couple of cars going slowly off the line, including Isaac Doble by the looks of things. And as they all make their way into the opening corners here, well, Isaac Doble right now with a terrible start, dropping all the way down. He's lost out behind Lee Horn and Alan McCain. Nick Clemens as well going up the inside. I think Isaac Doble's got a problem with the car potentially, as the car is snaking about everywhere, unless he's just trying to get the car going. And as they make their way through turn number 2, Matthew Sheraton also on the back with Sam Smith on the inside as they come into 4. Meanwhile, Johnny Higgins Jr. under pressure from Mikey Doble, who's had a ferocious start by comparison as they make the way down towards the Kleiner chicane. And as they come roaring on down, we've only had one off track so far, and that's been all trio off camera. Isaac Doble getting it wrong, can't go into all there. It's a bit of pandemonium right at the back of the picture. Mark Sykes, Jack Southfield, and also Mark Ken involved in that. But meanwhile, Jamie Dory and Mikey Doble side by side going on through the Kleiner chicane. They both survive it here. Two white stills, they make the way down through the corner, and they carry on from where they left off in the first race of the day, and going through the left-hander in to the right-hander of Talamanbot now for the braking zone. Dory does get ahead. Lee Horn out of sorts there, trying to go defensive. Also on the offensive versus Kieran Sharp, but keeping Alan McCain behind for now. He's got to be careful of that, given the fact that right now, if he falls out of position, going on through the Talamanbot chicane, he'll lose a lot of momentum in the run up towards turn 6. And meanwhile, we've got 3 wide here for a brief moment. That's Johnny Higgins Jr. on the inside, Jamie Doyle on the outside. I think might have been a slow run for was Higgins Jr. coming out of turn 7, but Mikey Doble's got ahead, and so has Jamie Doyle in the end, albeit they've had to do it quite what is an innovative way of making the moves happen. And right now, Higgins Jr. drops down to P8 with the Kieran Sharp right behind. But meanwhile, we've got a car in the gravel, and that is Joseph Doble, who's gone off in the gravel at turn 10. Now, whether that was aided or not, we're not quite sure. We will try and understand very shortly what exactly has happened. But as they make their way across the timeline, we're still green flag racing, and after one lap, it's McCluskey who leads ahead there of Pike and Mould P3. Mould missing the front bumper. That may explain what's perhaps happened with Joseph Doble if we put 2 and 2 together. Mikey Doble P4, Adam Delwant P5, Jamie Dory P6, John Higgins Jr. P7 ahead of Kieran Sharp P8. We then do have Lee Horn and Alan McCain to complete your top 10, and Lee Horn is your prime leader at the moment, P9, ahead of McCain. And then Nick Clemens Bester SP11 is your third place prime driver, with Matthew Sheraton right behind him. And Matthew Sheraton gaining more places at the start once again here. Sheraton, one of the best starters in this field, as they make their way down towards the Klein chicane. But as they head on down here, everyone now in the long snake train of cars, and Isaac Doble still trying to make further progress, and so for Joseph Doble here as they come on down. In fact, Isaac all the way down P27, so it's been an absolute terrible start for Isaac Doble, and Joseph Doble as well right now having a difficult start and trying to find his way back into a rhythm here as he comes down through Bitter and in towards Salamanbot. As they all make their way nose to tail through at the chicane, we take a look back at what exactly happened to Joseph Doble only moments ago. And this was under braking into the final corner, and there was contact there of Adam Delmont, and then further contact across the front of what was Dan Mould, and that explains exactly what happened and why Dan Mould is missing the front bumper. And Joseph Doble's car will definitely have felt the impacts there of the 2 bits of contact. That's not going to be helpful whatsoever. We also did have a major incident between our drivers further on down on lap number 1. We'll come to that very shortly, but right now we're looking at the battle here between Sam Smith and Garen Garner, as Garner powers his way through on the outside in the run down towards turn 10. That's a P16 on live pictures there as they come to the end of lap number 2 and gone to lap number 3. But Smith gets a bit deep there, and a bit wide. Was there contact with Nigel Stott? We're not quite sure, but Smith definitely falling wide. But meanwhile, in the foreground of the camera, 3 wide for a brief moment between what was Dory Delwant and Higgins Jr. And Dory takes what is their P5 of the pair of them. Adam Delwant right now falling back a little bit more. I think the damage he's picked up from that contact with Joseph Doble is being felt more and more with every corner turned. But as they make their way up towards turn number 4, well, right now Jamie Dory definitely making further and further progress as the race goes on. Car wide, that's Mikey Doble's made a mistake coming out of turn number 4. Andrew Pike moves up into P2. Mikey Doble's going to be under a lot of pressure here from what is down. Moldmore's going to look around the outside. He's going to go all in here under braking, but meanwhile Mikey Doble's going to defend as hard as he can. This will mean that both drivers now find themselves on an equal playing field as they make the way on the rise and down to turn number 6. And Will Mole's going to suck in, flashing his lights there, trying to get into the head of the 88 driver. But Mikey Doble, a seasoned veteran of this series, and indeed both a real-life touring car driver and the simulator, racing BTCC. He will see all the tricks in the book as he makes his way through turn number 7 and up towards turn number 8 as they charge the way and through. We've also had a bit of a shake-up in positions further down the order. Oh goodness, we've got cars off there at turn number 7 through the Talamanbot chicane. That is Wayne Douglas and Michael Leese about to come in together. I'm not sure if there's a bit more to the story than meets the eye there, but definitely a few bumps and scrapes between them. But speaking of bumps and scrapes, well, we had an incident for Ben Altria and company on the opening lap, and this is what happened at the start of the race between the drivers. And Will Altria being turned across the front there, I think, of the car of either Mark Sykes or Jonathan Collins. Couldn't quite see what happened between the two of them. We will try and get a replay of that from a better camera angle. And, well, the brief camera we got there, that was across the front of Mark Sykes' car. We apologise there for the poor camera angles, just where the cameras were at the time of the incident. And, well, that's what led to the multiple drives going together. Southfield picked up in that, also Ian Wheeljob from College, all coming together in a nasty medley. But that was on the open lap. We now return to lap number 4. Wayne Douglas into the pit lane with damage picked up on the car. We're still under green flag racing conditions, and as we look back to the battle for P2, this is Pike still ahead of Mikey Doble for now. Benjamin McCluskey's got a 5-second gap in the foreground of your camera as they make the way into the braking zone as they come on down here. Meanwhile, Jamie Dory and Adam Delman nose to tail, and then it is going to be what is Dan Mulder in front of them right now. And, well, Dory absolutely on the offensive here as we jump on board with the number 1 driver, defending champion overall, as he comes on down through turn number 6 and heads up towards 7. As they make the way onto the brakes here. Right now, Dan Mould definitely battling against elements who will have a lot less speed on the straights. Given that front aero damage, it will be costing the best part of 2 to 3 miles now on the longest of the straights around here. And as they make the way on through turn number 7, up towards 8 they go. Dory close, but can he think about going for a move here, or will he have to wait? I think he's going to do the latter, as meanwhile Doble all over the back in front of Pike, really trying to squirm over the rear bumper of the Sim Racing Collective driver as they power their way onwards, and as they make their way down towards turn number 10. Further back, Alan McCain, your leader in the Pro class right now, ahead of Nick Clemens. It's a 1-2 currently in Pro for iRacing Esports, and the 2 drivers here doing exactly what they need to, and they'll want to hold that formation for as long as possible. But I do wonder whether Clemens may feel as though he's the faster driver and try and look for a move. We have normally seen on average lap pace that has been Clemens who's been faster by 1 to 2 tenths a lap, given each and every venue we've been to when it's all equalled out. But then again, this could be the day where McCain finally picks up his first winning class this season as they make the way in. In fact, that's going to be a slow run for Nick Clemens. That's track limits there. He's picked up an automated slowdown penalty. Meanwhile, Lee Horner makes his way around the outside, so it's going to spoil the 1-2 prospects there for iRacing Esports for now. Meanwhile, further up the road, Mikey Doble has found his way back ahead of Andrew Pike coming out of turns 2 and 3. So now the number 88 car here trying to break away. Keep in mind, of course, it does have some weight in the car, but not as much as what Pike has got. And therefore, Mikey Doble right now trying to maximise this race and trying to pick up as many points as possible before we go into race number 3. And keep an eye on that reverse grid as well. We definitely could see him a long way down the order, perhaps even outside the top 20 in terms of where he would start if we were to draw some of the highest numbers out of the lottery bowl. As they make the way on through. Kieran Sharp here chasing after Adam Delman right now, the Sim Racing Collective driver trying to make some progress here at the back of a long line of cars as they make the way in towards turn number 8. In fact, the battle for P2 through to P7 separated by only 2.5 seconds from the leader to the rear of the group. And as they come down to the braking zone, Kieran Sharp gets very close there on the back of Adam Delman, and Dory also picking his way through. John Haynes Jr. 1.2 seconds off of this group of cars. The Sim Racing Collective driver, I think, now focusing and turning his attention more and more to that. He had a difficult start, but he's still got over half the race to go, and he really is the last pro before we get the top 4 of the Pro-Ams coming up behind him. And you can see Alan McCain is being caught by Lee Horn as they make their way across the start-finish line. We ride on board and look back from the rear of the 2-1-2 of McCain, but the point being here in the fact that whilst Horn is half a second off, Horn is closing. In fact, in that last lap, Horn did take 4 tenths out of McCain. It would seem as though right now Lee Horn is the one to watch out for in this race. He's got the speed in the car, and it really is coming alive, but Nick Clemens is trying to come back. Matthew Sheraton there in the wings as well, and you have Joseph Doble at the back of what is this quintuplet, and with Joseph Doble being the pro, he'll be looking to try and pick his way through for some overall points, given the points are awarded down to 15th place, with P13 currently, but he'll want some more. As they make the way on through, we have had a change at 4 position between what is Kieran Sharp and Dan Moll for P4, and this is exactly how it happened. With that, Jamie Dory having a poor run through turn of 1. Mole going wide there, so Dory and Mole both getting it wrong at the corner. Kieran Sharp goes up the inside of 1, goes up the inside of 2. Mole trying to stay there with him, and as they made the way through the corner, when Kieran Sharp being in the right place at the right time to be the perfect opportunist, and as they made the way on through, it was Kieran Sharp who's moved up into P4 there, and good reactions from the 23 Honda. But as they make the way out on to what is now the run to turn number 8, we return to those live pictures for you, and well, we can see Dan Mould here under continued pressure from Jamie Dory as they make the way through the turn 8 hairpin. Dory can't find his way on through, but with all this battling between the pros, what it is doing is bringing the Pro-Ams, the leading Pro-Ams, into a concertina here, whereby now you've got John Higgins Jr., who's only got McCain behind him by 2 tenths of a second as they make the way into the braking zone for turn number 10, and going on through the left into our right. Well, there's nothing between these guys. Meanwhile, a bit further down the order, we can tell you that Reese White is trying to make some headway in the late stage of this race after a difficult start to his race, as we look to leaders coming on through. And we'll speak it of Reese White, here he is as he crosses the timeline. You can see there the JW Motorsport Audi chasing after the Performance Link Esports Audi, and Russell Fowler has made quite a bit of progress in this race, having started from outside the top 20. He's up to P17. What is P7 in class, so some points will be coming his way, but definitely right now be feeling the damage done by race number 1, and this result is not going to do too much to remedy it. It's going to be race 3 where the key remedy will be if things finish as they currently stand, as they make their way up towards turn number 4. And what right now feeling the more dicey of the two drivers, but speaking of feeling dicey, here it's side by side between McCain and Horn, the leader of Prime Class. McCain up the inside, Horn lets it go, but now we'll look for the better run coming out of the chicane, and as he makes his way over the rise, we'll look at Clibbins. Nick Clibbins trying to look up the inside. They're going into turn number 6. He'll be on the outside for the Salon Block chicane. He can't quite find it, and Clibbins backs off for the time being. But right now, iRacing Esports, they want to make it a 1-2 here. They know they've got the pace to do it. Lee Horn is fast. I think Clemens feels though he's faster, and McCain right now just needs to act as a rolling roadblock in a way, albeit he won't want to be too slow, as always he'll lose out. But Horn there going defensive. In fact, I think for Lee Horn that may be a slowdown penalty he's picked up for automated track limit infringements, and therefore McCain and Clemens return to the 1-2 for boys iRacing Esports in the Prime Class P9, P10 overall. But Lee Horn and Matthew Sheraton are still there. They're not too far away. And meanwhile, Joseph Doble looking around the outside versus Matthew Sheraton, trying to go for overall position here, trying to go for P12. And right now, Joseph Doble feeling the pain of what is weight in the car. But on top of that as well, the fact he's got 4 prime drivers in front of him who are very invested in their own battle in class, and they won't be really paying too much attention in terms of thinking of letting the pro driver come on through as they make their way in towards turn number 1. But to be fair, they have a right to be there just as much as any of the other drivers, and therefore they can fight for positions with the pros, given the fact there's also the overall championship which the primes factor into. And as they make their way on through turn number 2 into 3, you can see Sheraton right now not having the fastest run out the corner, but just able to stay a couple of inches ahead of Joseph Doble, and that's enough in relative terms in order to give him some comfort going on to the second half of this lap. But meanwhile, it's a run wide there for Nick Clemens, and Lee Horn is going to retake P2, moves up to P10 overall, and this battle between the two and rages on. Alan McCain right now 1 second clear. We feel as though he's safe, albeit we hoping his teammate can get back in behind to make it a 1-2 for the team. Meanwhile, looking from them to what is a bit further in front, we have Kieran Sharp here, who's still trying to follow after Andrew Pine. The two Sim Racing collector drives P3, P4 with what is the leader, the Benjamin McCluskey and Mikey Doble. They've broken off into distance. Doble is closing on McCluskey at a rate of 4 tenths a lap, so we could see Mikey Doble go for the win in this race on the final 2 laps if our maths is correct. And we see them there making the way for the camera. You can definitely see how McCluskey's lead has practically been halved over the course of the last 4 laps, and as they make the way on through here right now, you don't need to give an incentive to Mikey Doble. If he can see a win in the distance, he's going for it. And as they make the way on down in towards turn number 10 here, with the leading pro group right now may have calmed down for a brief moment, but meanwhile one pro who is trying to make some more progress here is Sam Smith for iRacing Esports, looking around the outside. They're going through turn number 9 versus Michael Lees. Lees on the outside now going down towards turn number 10. Smith will have the authority under braking it to really shut the door. Albeit a bit of contact between the two of them. Lees does get very squirmy under braking as a result of that contact, and I think the two of them trying to share the same space in the road, but Smith does find his way through. But Michael Lees there may not be too pleased with how that move has played out. Next target for Sam Smith is Mark Kent as they make their way onto lap number 9. But looking from them, we look back to Dan Mould here, the SRL driver, and we see Mr. BF John there in the YouTube chat saying it took him ages to paint Dan's front bumper, and that bumper has been removed from the car, so we're not going to get to see it in all its splendid glory right now, but he'll hopefully be back on there for race number 3 of today. And as they make the way down, Adam Delmont's still there right behind, but I think Mould right now has found a way to offset its lack of straight line speed with the damage to the car. But it's all being made up in the corners here by the Briton as he comes on down through 6 into 7, onto the brakes he goes. And meanwhile behind, John Higgins Jr. still holding firm and trying to find a way into this battle. I don't think he's quite got the pace at this point to be able to entertain an opportunistic move, but as they make the way on around, meanwhile it's the battle of the Sim Racing collector drives. Here's Pike being passed on the inside by Sharp. Well, Sharp's going for it now. There's a premeditated pass between the two teammates. Are they swapping here? Well, we have talked to them previously, and they have talked about the fact that sometimes he is battling for position. They're allowed to go for it. Sometimes they think about the bigger picture. Well, I think Kieran Sharp right now, with the fact he came from the inside, they're relatively good comfort, and Jamie Dory being right behind that may have been instigated as part of the team order. As they make the way up towards turn 1, they go on to lap lap number 10, 4 laps to go. Jamie Dory right there behind Pike. So Pike right now having to act as the rear guard here. Perhaps they feel as though Pike will be the better car to defend at this point in the race. Well, right now, Kieran Sharp's going to try and run away. Meanwhile, a bit further back, Matthew Shepperton still keeping Joseph Doble behind. He's not quite able to make enough closure towards Nick Clebbins, and Joseph Doble hasn't quite got enough to get ahead. But I think he's going to try and change that thought very shortly as he looks at the inside, but Shepperton closes the door there, using the radius of the corner in order to be able to do so. And as he makes his way on around through turn number 3, Shepperton right now doing good to hold on to P12 here overall, but he is losing time to the top 3 in the prime class in front of him as they make their way onto the stretch. And meanwhile, Jamie Dory looking for a move still versus what is Andrew Pine in the battle for P4 overall, still cannot find it. As he comes on to the power once again, going over the hill and down towards turn number 6, and these two incredibly close as they make their way under braking into Tulama box chicane, and under braking they go, and Dory gets incredibly close as they make their way through. I thought that was almost going to be a side swipe onto the rear quarter panel of Pike's car, and that goes to show you just how tenaciously difficult it is to pass. But also on top of that, right now Dory absolutely itching for a move here as he starts to take little pokes there to the inside of the corner at turn number 8. Can't quite find it at the moment, but as they make their way out to the corner here, Andrew Pike will be looking more and more in his rear view mirror and his side mirrors, and thinking that pressure is building right now, and will it erupt, or will Pike be able to keep the proverbial cork in the bottle? As they break the way into turn number 10, Pike having to go defensive in the middle of the road, and as a result, as they make their way out to the corner, well, right now Pike definitely feeling the pressure with 3 more laps on the board. As they power the way through and onwards towards turn number 1. Dory again close, but he can't quite intimidate for a potential move here, making the way through 1 into 2. But as they roll the cars off of Apex there, now making the way into 2, 3, well, you can see just how Sharp is able to hold a bit more of a gap, 9/10. But again, Kieran Sharp not really breaking away perhaps as rapidly as we would have expected with this battling. So therefore, it is very nip and tuck on the pace between them. And meanwhile, behind, well, now Adam Delman all over the back of Mould as they come in towards turn number 4. But again, both drivers here running cars that are needing to be nursed for the damage they picked up earlier on in this race in the early stages. I think right now it may be that Delman's got a bit more power on the straights in terms of how much speed he can carry, but in return the corners the car not as comfortable. And meanwhile Mould, I think, trying to get everything done in the corners because he hasn't got the speed on the straights. And as they make the way over the rise and down in towards turn 6 and 7, we see John Higgins Jr. right on the back now of Delman here as they make the way through the chicane, and as they weave and twist their way on through. Well, Higgins Jr., I think he's been saving it all up for the last couple of laps, and I think he'll feel as though now he can go all in. As they make the way through, we look back here to Michael Lees, who's trying to pick up another place versus Mark Kent in the battle for P21. On the inside he goes, that's a P10 in the prime class as well. Goes for under braking into the London bot, and a classic move down the braking gets it done. And nice work there from the Briton, and Kent trying to follow him for a counter-attack up towards turn number 10. But I think given the 3.5 tenths gap here, Kent would have to lunge from quite far back in order to do so, and it may not come about in the end. Indeed, Michael Lees consolidating the place there for P21. But meanwhile, looking from them, we did say to you earlier, within the last couple of laps of this race, we could see a battle for the overall lead materialise. And well, it's not quite on the penultimate lap, but the gap is 7.5 tenths here between Benjamin McCluskey and Mikey Doble as they make the way past the hoarding tent. And here is McCluskey, and there is Doble just behind as he continues to push on. At last lap, Mikey Doble gained a whole half of a second. Well, if he carries on at that rate of knots, he will be on the rear bumper. And McCluskey come at the end of this lap and going on to the final lap. So right now, Doble trying to take a win here in this second race of the day, knowing that'll be big points before the final race of the day, and therefore it will offset the potential damage that is to come. Meanwhile, in the battle for the prime lead, well, here is Alan McCain ahead of Lee Horn, with Nick Livingston 3/4 of a second behind as they make the way over towards where it's turn 6 and 7, and as they make the way in towards the next braking zone here. Well, right now you can see Horn close, but he's not quite able to instigate the move at the moment. But I think what Horn's going to be thinking about is looking for the move late on the brakes in the final lap. He'll throw all the chips in if he feels confident. Otherwise, he may just decide to hold him to P2. I know that's still a huge result, and in return, that will put him into the effective position whereby he could be leading the Prime Championship come the end of the racing today with 3 rounds to go, given how close it is at the top of the field. But I have to wait to see whether temptation is a bit too strong for Horn to go for it. As meanwhile, it's McCluskey versus Doble as they make the way out of the final corner and onto the final lap. As they power the way now, keep an eye on McCluskey's got maximum success ballast in the car. Doble has some, but nothing by comparison. It's the best part of 35 kilograms difference, and that's going to be felt when you're in equal machinery at this top level. And as they make their way through turn one, Doble immediately trying to set up a cutback here. Can he get it? No, he can't. As McCluskey defends the inside. Onto the brakes, they're going to turn number 2. It'll be the attempt at another cutback here. McCluskey gets it, starts. Contact there between the two of them as Doble thought about carrying all the speed, but McCluskey saw what was coming and said, I'm going to fully park an apex, but it's nip and tuck between them now as they make their way into turn number 4. McCluskey holds the line. Doble tucks back in here, but he gets the better exit. Gap is a 10 as they make their way on through. McCluskey defends the inside. Doble tries to go down the inside. Can't quite find it, and now trying to get the door open it. Looking all the way in the end, McCluskey doing well enough to hold the position as they dance their way over through the client chicane, or leap and bound their way, I should say. The suspension of these cars take an absolute beating, and now down through turn 6 they go. McCluskey defends the inside, onto the brakes they go, into the chicane, and as they do, Doble right now looking around the outside, he can't quite find it as they make their way out to Limburg. There's only a few more corners to go. We're going to stay with this battle all the way to the end, ladies and gentlemen, as Doble is literally pushing on the rear bumper now. McCluskey as they make their way in towards turn number 8, down towards the braking zone they go. Doble's only got a couple of corners left to look for the move as he tries to go around the outside, but then McCluskey sees it's coming and just simply holds the line on the inside. Meanwhile, Kieran Sharp, they're 2 seconds back. We're watching this at a distance, but I don't think he can intervene as now McCluskey will defend hard to the inside, going into the final corner. Doble's got to look around the outside here into that final chicane. Onto the brakes they go, but McCluskey right now, he can see the checker flag. It's off in the distance, and it's going to be a drag race to the line between the two of them. But I think McCluskey's going to have it, ladies and gentlemen. He is going to make it 2 wins out of 2 as McCluskey takes the checker flag by 9 hundredths over Mikey Doble P2, Kieran Sharp P3. It will then be Jamie Dory P4 for NXTGEN Racing Pink ahead of Andrew Pye P5, Dan Mould P6, Adam Delton P7, John English Jr. P8, and it will be Lee Horn who takes the win in the Pro class off of Alan McCain. We'll need to get a replay of what exactly happened between them, but Lee Horn takes the Pro win for Sam Case for NXTGEN ahead of Alan McCain. Nick Clemens in here makes it a 2-3 for iRacing Esports on the Pro podium with a P11 as well in the overall category. Matthew Sheraton P12, Joseph Doble P13. And he'll be guaranteed to be in that reverse grid even if the lowest number is drawn of 13. And we have still got a few drivers to finish this race, including Isaac Doble, who in a very difficult race has recovered to P23. So he has got a remote chance of being in that reverse grid. If the number 23 is drawn, then he will be on pole. And then Ian will P24 ahead of what will be Wayne Douglas, who makes his way through the final corner now onto the start finish straight for NXTGEN Racing. Being a difficult day so far for the 66 driver, but still one more race to go, and then our final finisher will be Jonathan Collins. In terms of final finisher on the lead lap, he will be at 1.5 minutes off of the race winner of Benjamin McCluskey, but still Collins will bring it to line. It'll be a P14 in Pro class, P26 overall, so it will be a couple of points to his championship campaign in the Pro classification. He'll be happy that he's got those points on the board as he makes his way out of the final corner and takes his checkered flag. We also did have finished a lap down. Both Nigel Stocker, Mark Sykes and Ben Altrier finished 2 laps down, and our sole retiree of Jack Southfield. But well, ladies and gentlemen, we look here to Lee Horn, the Pro-Am winner, and the big question is, how exactly did he get the move done? Well, here is the replay. Well, it was as things started to really kick off between McCluskey and Doble. Horn looking around the outside here, going onto the final lap into the final chicane. Side by side of the braking they went. Horn relying on the brakes of the Honda there and nailing the run over the curve, it must be said, on the second part of the final chicane. But they were still side by side in the run down the hill through Butter. Contact between the two of them there, and both tries getting their elbows out. But Horn in on the inside into Limburg. And well, 2 does not go all the way through to Limburg normally, but they made it happen here in fantastic racing between the two, still side by side, coming out of the turn 7 chicane. And in the end, it was a mistake from McCain, who went a little bit wide, and that's given the Horn the ability to get his nose ahead and then under braking into turn number 8. Now he's got the inside line plus also the nose advantage. You can see there the fact that Nick Clemens trying to get involved, but Clemens in having to hold that outside line initially as they made their way through turn number 9 down towards 10. Horn got ahead, got the move, all said and done. Clemens decided to back out there to let McCain, I think fairly so, take the P2 and try and go for that last ditch gasp in taking the Pro-Am win. But that's how Lee Horn, ladies and gentlemen, took the lead of the Pro-Am class in the final lap and made it a win. And meanwhile, what was McCain ahead of Clemens right at the checker flag, and well, what a race between them. Indeed, one of the battles of the season, if not of all time in the NXTCC, it must be said, to see the two of them going side by side through at Talam Bot for that length of time. But still, with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to take a look at the race results, and here they are, of course subject to any stewards' inquiries. So after our second race of the day, another 13 laps turned in round 7 of season 4 of the NXTCC. Benjamin McCluskey taking the win there for Next Gen Racing by 700 over Doble Sim Racing's Mikey Doble, and then rounding off the podium, Kieran Sharp there for the Sim Racing Collective. Jamie Dory P4 for Next Gen Racing Pink ahead of the Sim Racing Collective's Andrew Pike, with SRL's Dan Mole P6 despite the difficulties and the damage on the car. And then Adam Delwant P7 for Mark Sykes Designs. The final lead pro driver there, John Higgins Jr. P8 for the Sim Racing Collective, finishing at 1.5 seconds clear of your prime winner, Lee Horn at P9 there for Sam Case with the Next Gen, and only what was in the end half a second ahead of Alan McCain for iRace Esports, who completed the overall top 10, and he led home a 2-3 in the prime podium classification for iRace Esports ahead of teammate Nick Clemens, who was P11 overall, and therefore best of the rest. Matthew Sheraton at P12 there, once again a great performance from the Aztec Racing Giant in the 390, just missing out on the prime podium, but still a P4 in class and a P12 overall, won't go amiss. Head of Joseph Doble P13, who did well to recover after his difficult start off the line. Then Ian Maz and Gavin Garner completing the top 15. Matthew Addy P16, the Sam Case for Next Gen driver, having a better second race today, but still knowing there's a lot of points that have been missed thus far, and therefore race number 3 will need to come to him as soon as possible. And then it is Russell Fowler ahead of Reese Watt, with the top 20 being completed by Paul Scott and Sam Smith. P21 for Michael Lee, so Mark Sykes Designs, who managed to hold off Mark Kent to the end, with the full tilt B Motorsport driver for 5 seconds behind, but 12 seconds clear of Isaac Doble, with Ian Wild P24 ahead of Wayne Douglas, and then Jonathan Collins for Whiskey Runners for Next Gen being the final lead lap finisher of the race. Finishing a lap down as classified, and they will be classified as race finishers, Nigel Stock and Mark Sykes. Finishing 2 laps down at Ben Altrier there for Full Tilt B Motorsport. He'll be classified as a finisher as well, as he completed over half the race distance. And then the sole retiree from this race will be classified as a non-finisher, as he only completed 3 laps in total. Jack Southfield for the Sim Racing Collective at P30 there out of 30 starters. So that was our second race of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Now we have got one more race to come, of course. It'll be our final race of the day, another 13-lap sprint here at Circuit Zolder. But of course, there's just the one question of how many places will the grid be reversed by. Well, without further ado, it is time for us to conduct the reverse grid draw. And good evening to you all, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're doing well and enjoying the entertainment thus far tonight. Some fantastic racing up and down the field, it must be said. But without further ado, we commit the draw. And we have here the Next Gen Racing Lottery Bowl. Within this bowl are the numbers 6 through to 12. What I'm going to do very shortly is close my eyes, give the balls a shuffle, and pull 2 of the balls out. And then we're going to add the numbers together, and well, that'll be our reverse grid position. So let's get to it. So that's the shuffle, and now we go for our first draw. And our first number of the day, well, it's going to be a high one. It is the number 11. So this is going to be quite the reverse grid. And I think Isaac Doble right now will be looking to what would be the hope of number 12 coming out in the second part of the bowl. We're going to close our eyes and shuffle it once again. And well, let's take the last draw. And what's the number going to be? Well, it's close, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're not going to quite believe this. It's 10, so it will be what is P21 that the grid is reversed from. So that will be Michael Lees, who'll be starting on pole. It's almost the maximum number we can see. And well, right now, that is going to mean that Sam Smith will be joining him on the front row. And Sam Smith's misfortunes in the first 2 races of the day may now be turned around in our final race of the day. Well, that is going to be at the reverse grid, ladies and gentlemen. It's a top 21 reverse grid, and we will be back in approximately 6 to 7 minutes time for the build up to our final race of the day. We'll see you shortly. Until then, take it easy. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for our final race of the day. Race 3 of 3 here at Circuit Zolder in Belgium. And while the Heusden Zolder circuit in the Limburg region has definitely delivered an absolutely stellar pair of races thus far. In races 1 and 2, we have seen battles up and down the field, but race number 2 took things to an extreme in the fact that we got to see battles for the overall and prime win run down to the wire. And whilst Benjamin McCluskey was able to hold on to make it 2 out of 2, Alan McCain was not quite able to hold off the determined charge of what was Lee Horn, with Horn finding his way through and taking away the spoils of what was a win for iRacing Esports, instead it going the way of Sam Cases with NXTGEN Racing. But still, we've got one more race to go, and of course now it's all on the line in this final race of the day, in the fact we have a top 21 reverse grid, and well, given the fact that our top 10 was a relatively heavy-sided split of pros versus pro-ams, with 8 of our drivers in the top 10 being pros and then 2 primes at the back of it. It does mean that once again we are going to see our pros have to carve their way through the field, and well, for McCluskey and Doble, they'll be starting at what is P21 and P20 respectively, and they'll both know they've got their work cut out for them if they want to try and get a big score in this final race of the day, because overtaking this circuit is so difficult, but also they'll have the maximum success ballast in their cars, given the fact that they did end up finishing at P1 and P2 respectively. So therefore that's where things are now going to become even more complex for our drivers, and as they get ready to go, this is going to be the opportunity for some drivers who've had difficulty in the earlier stages of today to try and shine. For example, Sam Smith will find himself started at P2 on the grid, and we did see there a couple of you with reference to the fact that Sam Smith, of course, also being an infamous British singer, I do believe, albeit not the same Smith that you do see on circuit today. They're 2 entirely different people, but I do see had some shoe there saying Sam Smith identifying as a race driver now, and of course that can be the way when you have identical names across different people in different walks of life. And as they get ready to go racing, we'll say hello to Benji Racing there, who said, Mikey, catch me at the end with Jaws music. And also Andrew Pike saying, weight is killer here. Mikey and Dory were so fast. Indeed, they were, but still the Sim Racing Collective drivers, including Andrew himself, doing a fantastic job in that second race today. And the Sim Racing Collective definitely picking up the lion's share of the points in their battle with what is Double Sim Racing. But NXTGEN Racing pick as well, get some key points with Jamie Dory. So therefore we could see the top 3 in the Teams Championship really narrow up after this round with 3 rounds to go, and well, that will definitely be a sight to behold, with Treatment Motegi a week away, and for round number 8 that Japanese circuit will be filled with overtakes, but in terms of overtaking opportunities, and therefore it could have once again caused the standings to end up going for a bit of a shake-up. We're now only 15 seconds on the clock. Everyone's in a position by the looks of things here. Our drivers are all comfortably set, and as we do look to re-swat, just gradually making his way through turn number 6. It's been a difficult day today for the number 32 driver. Definitely has not come to him easy these races. We're hoping that now that his final race today will come to him a bit more naturally. He'll be starting inside the top 10, and with that, ladies and gents, it's about time we started to make our way to the grid. So our drivers make their way onto the grid. This is how they'll line up for the final race of the day. It is Michael Lees who takes pole position for Mark Sykes Designs, joined on the front row by Sam Smith for iRacing Esports. Paul Scott and Reese Watt line up on row number 2 for Sam Case for NXTGEN and JW Motorsport respectively. With Performance Link Esports is Russell Fowler P5. On the third row he has Matthew Addy for Sam Case for NXTGEN alongside. Gavin Garner starts P7 for NXTGEN Racing Pink, with Ian Mazza JW Motorsport P8, and in the top 10 being completed by Joseph Doble for Double Sim Racing and Aztec Races Matthew Cheverton. Then on row number 6, it'll be the pair of Nick Clemens and Alan McCain. The 2 iRacing Esports drivers will look to try and move into the top 10 as quickly as possible. They'll have behind them Lee Horn and John Higgins Jr., with then row number 8 going to Adam Delman and Dan Mould, and then we have Andrew Pye and Jamie Doria on the 9th row of the grid. The top 20 is completed with Kieran Sharp and Mikey Doble, then Benjamin McCluskey, the last of the reverse grid drivers there, starting P21 for NXTGEN Racing. Isaac Doble starts P22 alongside him, and well, the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have to hold that thought now as we do await the lights, and it is going to be 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the final race of the day as Michael Lees gets a good start off the line. Sam Smith immediately tucks in behind. Bit of an instant further back. There's been contact there between Mark Sykes and Ben Altria. Nigel Stott also trying to steer clear of that danger. But as they make the way through the opening corner here, well, Russell Fowler's already got some damage to the front bumper of the car by the looks of things. I think he might have been in contact with the car in front of him. So that's going to disrupt the air on the front of the car. But as they make the way through what is the first couple of corners here, well, Michael Lees still under pressure and Sam Smith. Smith trying to go around the outside. Lees getting his elbows out there to try and say to Smith, no, you don't. And Smith all on the back of him now as they make the way through turn number 4. Reese Watt there trying to come through as they make the way down the first long straight. And well, as they all fan out to 2-3 wide here, heading down towards the braking zone, it's going to be Smith who falls behind Scott and Reese Watt as they make the way on down. And well, from there, Matthew Addy trying to get involved versus Gavin Gardner. Constantino effect all playing out here. 2 by 2 they come through. Andrew Pye round the outside of Kieran Sharp as they now make their way out the chicane and on the rise. Everyone survived the climb of the chicane the first time of asking, and as they come down towards turn number 7, now it's all going to be at line astern through here, unless anybody's been able to get an absolutely brilliant run on the inside. But looks like everyone holds position for now as they make the way on around through turn number 7 and up towards turn number 8 they go. But meanwhile, Sam Smith has moved back up to P3. He's found his way back past Paul Scott. We can see a Release and Watt battling side by side coming on through the turn 8 hairpin, and it looks as though right now Watt all over the back of Lees and really being released onto his rivals. They make the way up towards turn number 10. Charging their way up through the gearboxes here. Well, this first lap has definitely not been without incident as they come on through what is turn number 10 now to complete lap after 1 lap of racing. No safety car out on the circuit currently. It is, well, we've got Sam Smith running wide there, but he rejoins. It's Michael Lees who leads ahead of Reese Watt P2, Sam Smith P3, Paul Scott P4, Russell Fowler P5, Gavin Gardner P6, Matthew Addy P7, Joseph Doble P8 ahead of Alan McCain. Then Lee Horn completes the top 10. Adam Delwin P11 best of race with John Higgins Jr. behind him at P12. And as they wind their way on through, we can see they're running wide. That's Lee Horn who's going to release a position to Adam Delwin. John Higgins Jr. tries to go around the outside as well. Well, this is going to be a bit brave from John Higgins Jr. to go through this, given that Lee Horn can determine the line through turns 2 and 3, and he does exactly that. But it was worth the opportunity there. He didn't need to worry about losing there, you think, given the fact that Ian Maz was a bit too far back to be involved. But meanwhile, the battle for the lead is side by side down towards the corner chicane again. It's Lees on the inside, Watt on the outside on the left of your picture as they make their way to the corner, but Lees holds the speed. Meanwhile, Sam Smith trying to come on through here, and Smith right now wants to take the lead. I think he feels they can run away with this, but he runs wide out the chicane, and in the end Paul Scott creeps on through, and now Gavin Gardner getting close here, looking up the inside into Tulama box as they make the way to break it, but in the end Gardner has to back out. Fowler backs out and return out on the outside of the chicane, so therefore no change between them. Meanwhile, further back we have had a couple of cars with lockups there. Wayne Douglas goes a bit wide, but I think rejoins behind a number of drivers now as they make the way on through, and as they head up towards turn number 8 here, well, they're all nose to tail in the charge, and Alan Luke's there saying that game was staying. Well, meanwhile, it's 3 wide. It is, oh goodness, and Ian Manners in contact there with what is Mikey Doble, and also Dan Mould. More cars collected there. Also Wayne Douglas caught up in that one. It's a nasty shunt between the drivers. They carry on. The road clears quite quickly, in fact, but they'll all feel that Mikey Doble somehow still going into P13 now after all that, but definitely multiple drivers impacted, and it's led to even more 2x2s as they make the way on through what is there the final chicane, and Isaac Doble right now exchanging door paint with Jack Southfield as they head up towards another lap. Going on to lap number 3, we've got multiple cars in the pit lane. Adam Delwin, Mikey Doble and Dan Mould all in for the damage they've picked up, and well, it's a nightmare situation for them because they'll be put right to the back of the field, plus there's no safety car, so they're not going to latch back onto the field anytime soon. So therefore for them, they've got to do it the hard way and hope a safety car comes their way in the meantime. But as they wind their way into the pits, meanwhile the battle stay on the circuit here, and right now Isaac Doble, he's got the pressure job for Collins right behind, and well, Collins absolutely reveling in the charge here as he comes up through the right-hander at turn number 4, tries to carry the speed. We've also got Ian Manners in the pit lane, and we can confirm, so 4 cars have had to come in after all that contact. And well, meanwhile, Jonathan Collins had a poor run through the corner. He's now got Nick Clemens on his inside as Clemens goes for the move here under a break into the chicane. Clemens gains another place then out to P18. Meanwhile, that's Jack Southfield in the gravel there coming out of the chicane. I think he's fallen victim to the chicane again. The car has bounced out on the suspension. That Honda really proving to be tricky to get it right through the corner chicane. But meanwhile, looking back up the field, Alan McCain and Sam Smith right now, the 2 iRacing Esports drivers side by side, and McCain gets ahead of Sam Smith after what has been a difficult start to this race for Smith. Every time he's tried to make a place, he's lost one instead, and right now you can feel for the pro driver in the fact he's now down towards the bottom end of the top 10. As they head onwards towards another lap very shortly, we take a look back at firstly the incident off the start line involving Mark Sykes and Ben Altria. As they launched off the line here, you can see it's a bit of a slow start for Collins, and as Altria and Sykes come together, they just literally make contact. Sykes is scooped towards the wall, and Nigel Stock there just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and also gets blocked in by the incident. But that was the incident at the start of the race, ladies and gentlemen. We will shortly have a look back at the incident that happened between Adam Delman, Mikey Doble, Dan Mould and Ian Manners, and in fact we do have the replay. Here it is. In fact, this is not the replay of the incident. This was a little bit later on. In fact, I do believe between Delman and Mikey Doble, they made the way under braking, and they both came into the pit lane and had to get the car stopped in time. But we do take a look at what exactly happened between them, and well, this is how the incident started, we believe. Free wide going down into what was turn number 8 there, and free wide at the best of times is not going to be ideal. We do try to get a better perspective of that incident in terms of what happened between them, and in fact I believe we may be able to get from the helicopter camera, and you can see up the top of your screen free wide they all came down. Mold comes slightly across there, gets clipped by the front bumper of Mikey Doble's car. Ian Manners in the end becomes a passenger in that freeway incident. Wayne Douglas gets picked up in it. Meanwhile, Andrew Pine is able to steer clear of it, and again we're not pointing fingers with regards to Mold coming across. I think that was the natural flow of the circuit causing the car to come a little bit further across the right there, but that is going to be a difficult one for the stewards to try and interpret, and exactly if they need to apportion blame who it will go to, but definitely there a tricky one, and that's why free wide at Circuit Zolder is perhaps one of the most dramatic modes, and we see a bit of drama there. But now we focus back on the live pictures as our drivers make the way onto lap number 5, and this is Michael Lee still leading this race. He's got 6/10 advantage over Reese Watt, who is closing him down, and then Paul Scott behind, although I say that Reese Watt on that last lap was actually 4/10 of a second slower by comparison, so Lee is extending his legs a little bit here as Paul Scott in P3 has Joseph Doble and Gavin Garner for company, but Scott will be mindful of the fact he's going to try and stem the tide of a couple of pros, as meanwhile Lee goes a bit wide there out of 2, collects the exit curb quite noticeably and has to railroad over it, and as they make their way towards turn number 4, this is going to be Watt looking around the outside if they lead this race. The Mark Sykes Designs driver, just one mistake, and all that advantage you've been able to accrue has now been completely wiped out as they make their way down towards the client chicane. And Lee's here keeping ahead for now as we ride aboard and look back from the rear of the lead 55 as they make their way through the chicane. And meanwhile Watt on the back here as he looks to try and find a way to get a win in the Audi RS3, albeit it's been a difficult day for Watt, but he's having one last gasp at it today, and well, this could be the race that turns around all his fortunes in short order. But as they make their way through turn number 7 here, still you can see how Scott right now is only half a second on the back of this, and yet you do have Doble, as in Joseph Doble and Cameron Gardner, who are right on the back of Paul Scott. So now it does also come down to a question of for what, and also at least when do they battle, and well, do they want the overall win as well, or do they just want to focus on the class win? I think both of them would love to have the overall win. Of course, Reese Watt being the first driver in the NXTGEN's history back in season 2, if my memory serves me correctly, to take an overall win as a Pro-Am driver, that occurring at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben in Germany. And well, Reese Watt would love to take another overall win. It'd be the second time he does it. He'd be the first double overall winner in the Pro-Am class. But as they make the way onto another lap, Lee's here trying to break the toe. Also with a car going slowly there, that was in the form of Dan Mould crossing the line. And as they make the way on through, well, meanwhile, Paul Scott being passed there by Joseph Doble at a distance, so they make the way side by side into turn number 2. Joseph Doble on the inside there. Paul Scott tries to cut it back. He can't quite do so, and he's made to go the long way round instead as they come through turn number 3. And this is going to open up the door for Gavin Garner to look up the inside versus Scott. As you can see, they make the way into 4. In the end, Paul Scott's able to thread the needle and get back in. In fact, Joseph Doble with a poor run out for Paul Scott with a good cutback, and he's picked up a lot of speed as a result. This could be a 2-wide run into Kleiner chicane between Scott and Joseph Doble. He's got to look around the outside here. A bit of space being given between the two of them. Paul Scott, in fact, gets the better run through the chicane, albeit respect being given there by Joseph Doble to allow them to go 2 wide. And as they come down through turn number 6 and in towards 7, Scott still on the outside now to the inside line, but he has to back off there. He hasn't quite carried enough momentum, and therefore Joseph Doble able to make the defense stand for now. But Paul Scott not giving up in this, and definitely shown he's not just there to make up the numbers, he's there to try and fight for that overall podium. But meanwhile, a bit further back, we do have Russell Fowler here right in the midst of what is an iRacing Sports sandwich, and McCain in front and Smith behind. And Fowler has been passed quite recently by Alan McCain. As you see him, they're going a little bit deep in turn number 8. And right now, Smith really trying to get his elbows out there. But Fowler's having none of it. And understandably so, Fowler right now needs some big points in this final race today. As always, that championship lead is going to fall out of his hands with 3 rounds remaining. Albeit, he'll be figured so there's still 3 rounds to go. But in the heat of the moment, as a racing driver, you want every point you can. And thinking about the bigger picture is not always immediately on your mind. As they make their way across the line now, going to second after this. Oh my good lord, and Sam Smith there misanticipating how much width he had to the wall on the run down the start finish straight, and a nasty knock to the wall for the right hand side of the RS Esports Elantra, and that may cause some significant suspension damage to the car in terms of the wheel alignment. We'll have to see where he has to come into the pits at the end of this lap, but it looks like right now Smith, if anything, feeling confident with the car and over the back of Fowler, but that was a nasty knock there, unexpected, but that goes to show you Smith is pushing very hard, but pushing way too hard there on a straight line as they make the way out of turn number 4. But Smith all over the back of Fowler here, down the straight they go. And see flashing lights from Lee Horn behind, so Horn also trying to get into this, and understandably so, albeit Lee Horn right now can quite a bit of success ballast in the car after taking that win in the Pro class in our previous races. They made their way over the rise and down. Well, right now Fowler keeping Smith at bay for as long as he can, albeit conscious that Lee Horn is there waiting in the wings. And meanwhile, a bit further behind, Nick Clibbins here, he's on the back of Kieran Sharp, albeit these two have exchanged place in the battle for P16. And I think the emphasis here really being on the fact that Clibbins right now just looking at to try and follow Sharp through onto the battle with Isaac Doble. But as they come on around me, oh my good lord, we've got a car pointing the wrong way there coming through turn 8. That's Russell Fowler in the wrong direction, and I wonder whether he's been in contact with Smith potentially, as the two are very close together. We've got a car going slow, that's smoke coming out the car. That is Smith's car right now, which is smoking, so it does seem as though the two have had an altercation, and Smith and also Fowler will be into the pit lane. But what exactly happened is the big question. Let's find out. As they made the way over the rise here into the braking zone, and well, Fowler trying to defend and squeeze Smith as much as he could towards the apex, and in the end the two of them coming unstuck. Lee Horn there also ended up in contact with the wayward car of Sam Smith, but Lee Horn getting away there with a bump, not too many bruises, but definitely a difficult one for the two of them there. And again, that run through turn 7 into 8, catching drivers out with the fact that you're running off a left-hand kink, and it causes the cars to slide to that inside line by default with some understeer. But meanwhile, as we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Lees continues to lead this race ahead of Reese Watt, but the two of them are inseparable. 6 tenths is the gap, but their lap times are practically identical. As they make the way down through turn 6 into 7, Joseph Doble behind, and Joseph Doble the fastest driver on circuit right now. And that last lap for Joseph Doble, and fastest driver inside the top 10, we should point out, with Adam Delman in fact having the fastest lap last time around of 37.9, but Joseph Doble on a 38.0, 4 tenths faster than the pair in front of him. But right now, Lees and Watt are not going to be thinking about that as we jump on board here with the 32 driver from JW Motorsport as he comes down into turn number 8. Gets very close there, and well, a bit of oversteer there, a bit of power oversteer from Michael Lees. That's unexpected. I think he might have dipped to the left-hand side tyre, the rear left tyre, beyond the exit curve, then picked up a bit of grass. He tried to get traction. But Watt here looking around the outside, there's a bit of contact between them. Watt really tries to go all in there, expecting Lees to back out of it, but Lees does not let go. Once he's got his teeth into a position, particularly if he's leading the race, he is not going to yield at all. And Watt, to be fair, was right to go for it. They're trying to do something unconventional, and as they make the way onto lap number 9, they've still got the best part of 5 laps to go here, and Watt really puts in the pressure on it, albeit Joseph Doble only 2.5 tenths off now, and therefore Watt and Lees will be mindful of the fact that Joseph Doble will be looking for that overall win, as Watt gets a little bit of a moment there, picks up the understeer coming through turn number 2 into 3, and therefore Joseph Doble is let through to take P2. Only one car between him now and the overall win of this race, which Joseph Doble will want for his championship campaign aspirations. But as they make their way down towards that turn number 5, you can imagine that Michael Lees will also want that overall win to add his name to the record books. But as they head on down, meanwhile, we look a bit further back to Jamie Dory as he chases Andrew Pike for P11, and they make their way down the straight towards the Kleiner chicane. Pike only 3.5 tenths up the road. Isaac Doble in return 4 tenths behind, with Kieran Sharp closing in, and then Nick Clemens on the back of this group. But then from them, Nigel Stock, the Crest Autosport driver here on the back of Jonathan Collins, as they make their way over the rise and down in towards turn number 6. And these two, a little bit of a nip and tuck battle between one another as they come down to the braking zone between the Talaman box, I should say, but no change at the moment as they make their way on around. And as they do, these drivers here pushing one another as hard as possible P9 in what is the Pro-Am class, and Benjamin McCluskey just watching on from behind, not making too much progress in this race thus far, and for McCluskey that weight being felt very much indeed. As they come out of turn number 8 and onwards towards 9, we look back to your leader here, Michael Lees. He makes the way onto lap number 10, 4 to go as they head across the timing line, and Joseph Doble right there. He's thinking about it already, is Doble, but he's not quite close enough to really commit to the move here. Trying to see if he can get Lees to make a mistake under brake and try to psych himself out, but Lees not doing anything of that magnitude. And as they make the way on around here, well, Lees goes a little bit deep out the corner, but carries an ideal line, in fact. Meanwhile, Doble just following conservatively behind. 9, he's got time to play with his rival, and meanwhile 5 temps behind them. Reswap right now trying to make a new counter-attack as they make the way on to the run down towards the Kleiner chicane. But in Joseph Doble there peeling to the outside. Lees gradually sauntering out to the outside to open up the chicane. So there we can see what Joseph Doble was trying to do. He's trying to say to Lees, look, I'm going to be going to the outside, get Lees to commit to the outside line and then switch back to the inside, trying to sell the dummy effectively. But Lees knows it all too well, can just gradually bring the car over. He can meander there under rotation, and as they make the way through turn number 7, again, Lees can really dictate the line around here. And behind Paul Scott has got Gavin Gardner trying to fight him for P4. Same case with NXTGEN driver ahead of the NXTGEN Racing Pink Machine. But as they make the way over the rise, meanwhile Michael Lees here in the defend now versus Joseph Doble. Doble looking all the way around the outside. The Double Sim Racing driver fully committed here. It's going to be a tough pass to make, but he's still there. Lees can't shut the door anymore. Joseph Doble's earned the right to be on the inside in the run towards turn number 10. The two of them here continue to trade paint as they make the way down towards the braking zone. Reswap looks around the outside but thinks better of it and says, well, 2 does not go into 1, let alone 3. And as they make the way out of the corner, Joseph Doble commits round the outside and gets it done. Lees has a poor run off the corner. Reswap comes on through, and it's a change of prime and overall lead here. But now look at Michael Lees right in your picture, trying to come in. What covers the inside? Knows that Lees is going to go for it, and well, he puts himself on a compromised line in turn. This is going to release Joseph Doble, who now leads this race and is starting to open an advantage. But meanwhile, Reswap definitely working hard right now to try and consolidate that Pro-Am lead, and well, Michael Lees is not going to let him go. Paul Scott just behind, and the top 3 of the Pro-Am class now P2 through to P4 overall, and they're all within a second of one another as they make the way onto the stretch down towards the Kleiner chicane. And they're not letting Joseph Doble go either. He's only 5 temps up the road, or half a second, and as they make the way in towards the next braking zone, you can imagine Joseph Doble will be eager to break away, but will he be able to? That will be the change that confronts him. Meanwhile, further back, Jamie Dory closer this time to Andrew Pine, now only a 10th between the two of them. Isaac Doble as well there, but again they stay nose to tail for now. No change between them as Nick Clements meanwhile continues to ride the back of Kieran Sharp, and as they make the way over the rise and down to the corner, where it does seem as though that between these guys everybody's waiting for a move, but nobody can find the final 5% in order to get alongside and make the move happen here, where it may be that they're waiting for the final lap to make the move count 9, and when one of them pulls the move, then everybody else is going to be looking for it as well, and therefore it could be a long-term game of racing chess as they make the way onwards towards turn number 8. And down to the braking zone here, all staying together for now as they make the way on around, and a lovely blimp camera view there, and that shows you how our top 15 packs have just gradually opened up in this race as time has gone on. And here are the leaders as they make the way across the line and onwards towards the penultimate lap of racing here today at Circuit Zolder as they head across the line, and Joseph Doble continues to hold on to that lead. And meanwhile, in the battle for P11, will Jamie Doria as closely dares to dream to believe he can dare to go for the move as they make the way in towards turn number 1 here. And can the number 1 driver, in terms of his door number, look for a move that will put him into P11? He can't still, it's not quite there. But meanwhile, Wayne Douglas on the inside here, and Lee Horn as they make their way underneath the blimp, and as they roll their way through turn number 3. It's another place game for Wayne Douglas here for NXTGEN Racing Pink. We're seeing a bit more of a sedate race number 3 compared to what have been a very frantic pair of races, races 1 and 2. And right now Wayne Douglas moves up into P9 ahead of Lee Horn, who's relegated down to P10 overall, and that's P6 prime for Lee Horn. And I think he'll recognise the fact that gaining more place at this point in the day, it's all going to come down to his rivals in front making errors. And well, meanwhile, this battle for P11 lurks only 2 seconds back, but it is a long line of 5 cars here, nose to tail, separated by a maximum of 2 seconds, with what is Andrew Pike at the front of the group and Nick Clements at the back of the group, and nobody yet making a mistake as we ride on board and look back from the rear of the 99. As Pike makes the way out of the corner with Jamie Dory looking for that move. Again, it will probably be on the final lap now, given the number of overtaking places that are available, but also on top of that, the fact that Joseph Doble really now starting to put the pressure onto Dory, trying to say to Dory, are you ever going to get a move on here? And I think Dory's going to be saying, well, patience, I will eventually, as they make the way onwards towards turn at number 10, and as they head down towards the braking zone here, will Dory now be figured out that move, but Pike covers it off, goes defensive into the chicane, the white flag is out, final lap is about to get underway, and meanwhile, the battle here between what is Michael Lees and Paul Scott. Scott up the inside there, the Mark Sykes Designs driver being passed by what is there, the Sam Case UK driver. Now look at this, with Gavin Garner's trying to go around the outside. This is going to release Reese Watt to really run away with the lead of the Pro-Am class here in P2 overall, but Garner trying to get himself on to the overall podium. Matthew Addy's not too far out of earshot either as they make their way towards turn number 4. It's Garner who looks around the outside. That is going to be a very confident move there for Gavin Garner, because normally on the outside you are going to be feeling that understeer or the elbow of the driver on the inside, but as they make their way down towards turn number 5, it's Garner on the inside, Lease on the outside into the client chicane. They make their way on through, and Lease does not yield, and Gardner now has John Higgins Jr. looking for the move. It's 3 wide over the rise, and down they come. Dan Mould is a lap down, and right now hasn't really got anywhere to go other than stay on his line. Higgins Jr. out the inside here, and the Sim Racing Collector drive goes on. Garner comes back. There's a bit of contact there between the two of them. Higgins Jr. collects the car in time, but look at this from Matthew Addy as Addy tries to make his way out the inside. Well, Higgins Jr. holds on to the position versus Garner, but Addy creeps on through there at the very clutch moment when he needed to, and as they make their way down towards turn number 8, Higgins Jr. looking up the inside, it goes a win. Addy on the outside, he's going to get this done. It's Higgins Jr. Some brilliant racing from the number 5 driver, and as they make their way, Addy still side by side, but meanwhile we look to your leader, ladies and gentlemen. As it's been some time since we said this, but we're going to say it with pride here. Joseph Doble will see the checkered flag, and he will make it the final win of the day here overall for Doble Sim Racing in the number 11. And of prime winner Reese Watt P2 for JW Motorsport. Paul Scott rounds off the overall podium P3, ahead of Michael Lees, who rounds off the prime podium P4. Matthew Addy P5 ahead of John Higgins Jr. P6. It was neck and neck between them at the line. Gavin Garner P7, Alan McCain P8, Wayne Douglas P9 ahead of Lee Horn P10, and there's Andrew Pike ahead of Kieran Sharp, Nick Clemens, Isaac Doble, and Jamie Dory. Well, I'm not quite sure what's happened to Jamie Dory. He's fallen way down the order compared to when we last left him, and Jamie Dory finishing P15 we should say, and then Nigel Stott and Benjamin McCluskey and Jonathan Collins with a very late retirement. I think he's had a disconnection literally on the last lap, which is a disaster for Jonathan Collins, and that will demote him down the order. Ian Wild will take his best result of the season, P18 overall and P10 in the Pro-Am class, picks up his first top 10 in the Pro-Am this season. Well done to him for CS Sim Racing and Malley Motors. And then we have Mikey Doble P19, and the difficult final race of the day, Sam Smith P20 ahead of Russell Fowler P21. In Manners will be P22 at the line, and then Ben Altria will be your final lead lap finisher with Jonathan Collins' unexpected late retirement there, albeit he'll be P24 as classified. But goodness me, late drama in this race, 3 of 3 here today, but still nothing can be taken away from Joseph Doble, who had to fight hard amongst the likes of what was Michael Lees, Paul Scott and Reese Watt to get into the overall lead, but after taking it, he didn't look back, and with the Doble Sim Racing drive flying the banner high for the team, and those will be some invaluable points for his championship campaign in the overall championship, looking to try and get back ahead of Mikey Doble, his brother, but also working with his brothers to try and lead the team's championship. As Reese Watt, meanwhile, finally getting that win he has craved for some time, and that's second place overall as well. Another overall podium to go to his trophy cabinet. And for Reese Watt, it'll be a fantastic result there that really brings him back to life in the championship. But also there, Matthew Addy. It started off on a difficult note. The same case for the next gen driver, P5 overall, P4 in class. And he'll know those points have definitely come on in at the critical juncture at Circuit Zolder. And he'll still be in that top 5 when we go into next week's round at what is Twin Ring Motegi. But as all our drivers come into the pit lane, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. But in fact, before we do, we take a look at what exactly happened to Jamie Dory in the late stages of this race, and here's the replay. Well, they made the way out of the final corner. Jamie Dory, I think, had picked up a slowdown for track limits because he was going very slow there and had to lift off the throttle. So I suspect that may have been track limits at turn number 8 or turn 7. And in the end having to yield the places, so we're not quite sure the full story there, but that's what we can surmise. But now that we do return to your live pictures, we will take you through those race results. and here they are. Joseph Doble taking the final win of the day here in round 7 of season 4 of the NXTGEN, brought to you on iRacing, sponsored by Higgins Automotive, and the Doble Sim Racing driver taking the overall win by half a second over JW Motorsports Reswap P2. Reswap being your Pro-Am winner there, and he'll be absolutely pleased to be on the overall podium and the top step of the Prime podium with it, and he was ahead by 1.5 seconds over Sam Case with NXTGEN's Paul Scott, who picks up another second place. Still waiting for that Prime win, but it is going to come one day. He'll feel the confidence is coming, plus also an overall podium there for the 85 driver, and I believe that's his first overall podium of the season. Michael Lee's at P4 there for Mark Sykes Designs, a further 1.3 seconds back in a difficult end to the race today for the 55 driver, but still a third place on the Prime podium. That's nothing to be laughed at. And then Matthew Addy, P5 there for Sam Cases with NXTGEN, ahead of John Higgins Jr., P6, the Sim Racing Collective driver, getting the move done on Gavin Gardner and then a brilliant bit of battling, but losing out versus Matthew Addy in that close-knit freeway fight between the trio. Alan McCain, P8 for iRace Esports, ahead of Wayne Douglas and NXTGEN Racing Pink, and then the top 10 being completed by Lee Horn for Sam Cases with NXTGEN, a further 1.2 seconds behind. 2 seconds off of him, Bester SP11, Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective, ahead of teammate Kieran Sharp, with Nick Clemens, Isaac Doble and Jamie Dory completing your top 15. Nigel Stott P16 for Crest Autosport, and definitely having a reasonable debut today. I think he'll carry that confidence forward into round number 8 in a week's time. Ahead of Benjamin McCluskey at P17, just not able to really make too much progress in the final race of the day. That maximum success balance definitely being felt. And then, as we can see, Ian Wild P18, ahead of Mikey Doble and Sam Swift to complete your top 20. Russell Fowler P21 for Performance Link Esports there, not really able to gain too much in this race after a difficult start to race, and really has been a difficult day as a whole in Belgium for the British driver. And Ian Maz P22 ahead of Ben Altria, and then Jonathan Collins, the first driver to finish a lap down there, P24 for Whiskey Runners with NXTGEN, ahead of SRL's Dan Mould, and then 6 laps down Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing. He will be classified as a finisher as he completed over half the race distance, P26, and then Adam Dillon and Mark Sykes, as they only completed 6 laps, not 7. They will be classified as non-finishers, the Mark Sykes Designs drivers, I do believe. But then we also had Jack Southfield, our final driver there, retired after 2 laps, and the Sim Racing Collective driver will also be classified as a non-finisher, and a difficult day for the number 64 driver. But that concludes all of our racing here today at Circuit Zolder, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic racing from start to finish in all 3, and does really set up what is the final 3 rounds of the season that are to follow. But still, it's not over yet today in terms of the broadcast, in the fact that we do still have the announcement of our Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day in the Prime class, and after that we will also be bringing you the post-round interviews. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in approximately 15 minutes time for the announcement of the Driver of the Day and those interviews. You won't want to miss them, that I can promise you. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is my pleasure now to bring you the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day. For joining me in the commentary booth is none other than the man himself, the manager of Higgins Automotive. It is John Higgins Senior. John, how you doing this fine evening?
Good evening, Paul. I'm really well. How are you?
Oh, doing fantastically. And with the racing we've had today, all the better for what has been a great return to the racing in the NXTCC.
Yeah, I think the racing was really good tonight. What is on a very difficult track. If anybody's never driven around here on a sim, you'll not understand what I mean by that. But it's not a track you really, I've probably done a million laps around here when I was sim racing, and you just never ever feel that you've just nailed a lap off because it's such, you get going and then there's a chicane, you get going, there's a tight corner, and it's just, the weight was really difficult. Anybody that's had a good result on weight tonight, well done to you, because it is so difficult to drive around that track. And I think the racing was really good, and it's produced some really good results again. Some real solid results for everybody. Obviously, the team championship's very close. I'm obviously cheering on my boy and the guys from TSRC, and so yeah, I think that whole team thing is going to go down to the wire. So yeah, let's see how that progresses, and I'm looking forward to it. So unfortunately, Junior can't make it next week. So there may, and I'm going to put this in inverted commas, and I need to speak to Jamie to see if I can do this. I may jump back into the driver's seat next week, or at least do practice on the Monday. And if we're sort of there on time, then I may jump in and do the racing. But I need to speak to Jamie and see if that's allowed in Junior's place. If not, then it's fine. But so yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. That should be interesting.
Oh, 100%. I'm with you on that. I'd love to see you back out on the circuit once again, John, as it's been at some time, but we know you definitely can be a very close racer based on past experience. All positive racing, though.
Yeah, listen, I enjoyed it, you know what I mean? And, circumstances changed, and Junior obviously came to live with me. So we sold his sim rig, he's got mine, and we put some additions on from his. His pedals were a lot better than mine, and he runs his steering wheel, and I've still got mine. But other than that, it's pretty much as I raced it. So, but I get greater pleasure out of watching him. So, but he's not available. We're away to Silverstone this weekend for the final race of the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. We're in pole position and second place in the championship for that. And then we hopefully, if everything goes well, then we'll be celebrating at Silverstone on Sunday night, and be home Monday, and then do some practice. Like I say, if it's allowed, then we'll jump in and we'll see where we are. It'll be for giggles only, and then yeah, it'd just be nice to get back doing something. You know what I mean? Because I don't think I've drove the sim properly for 6, 7, 8 months or something. So we'll see where it goes.
Oh, indeed, we will. And coming from being in pole position going into the final round of the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup, to who was your driver who was in pole position today for the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day?
He's knocked on the door all season, Paul, and he's been very unfortunate because of the race 3 results. I've sort of edged towards people in the pro-am that have ended up winning the race outright in that race 3. But he's been super strong. He's had another super strong night tonight, and the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day is Lee Horn.
Well, congratulations, Lee Horn. And like you say, he's been knocking on the door for it for some time, but he's finally broke his way on through. And I'd agree with you on that decision, John, in the fact that today, well, and Lee will be our first interview very shortly, but the fact he picked up what was 2 podiums in his own class, plus also a P6 in the end in the final race today with some weight in the car. He's really come on strong over the season.
Yeah, I raced Lee back in season 1 and 2, I think, when I was doing it, and we had some great races. But when I watched Lee, how I don't know whether he's had some coaching or somebody's been to do some adjustments on his rig or whatever, but he has just completely clicked with it now, and you see that when he races. This season, like I say, he could have probably won Driver of the Day every night that we've done this season, apart from the week he was on holiday. And he's really impressed me. He's brilliant to race with. You never you never get taken out, or you never expect him to do something stupid and take you out. And he's a pleasure to race with, and it really pleases me to see how he's came on. And yeah, listen, it's not going to be long before he's winning some of these on a regular basis. You know, he had outright pole position not a couple of weeks ago, and so yeah, well done, Lee. Pleasure to watch you, dude. Pleasure to see how you've grown and adapted to this thing, and yeah, awesome, fantastic stuff.
Oh, indeed. And as we get ready to hear from him, just a quick word from yourself, John. Of course, given the driver of the day announcement today, but how are things going with the Higgins Automotive business?
Yeah, it's going all right. It's been a bitty few weeks. I know you gave a shout out to my brother Davey Muir, and I know he's listening just now. We've been chatting in Facebook Messenger tonight. I love you, brother. You know, keep your chin up and keep grinding. I know it's tough, and so yeah, I was up in Scotland for a few days, which obviously cut the week short, and then we came back, and I've been away with my partner for a couple of days in the caravan. So, and then it's been a short week again this week because I'm away to Silverstone on Thursday to obviously help Hills Motorsport and hopefully get Aidan and James Cossins over the line, 1-2, whichever way that ends up. But it's very likely that Aidan's going to win that. Fingers crossed and touch wood. So yeah, once we get this weekend and we get really pushing, because I've got no distractions between now and Christmas, and we can really push on. I've got a lot of stock to get ready for sale. So yeah, anybody that hasn't followed and liked the Higgins Automotive Facebook page, please go and do that. It helps obviously grow that, and anything that becomes available car wise, then you'll see it for sale first on there. So yeah, we just got to keep pushing along, mate. We're only 4 or 5 months into this thing, so it's baby steps, and we'll see where that takes us at some point.
Oh, 100%, John. Well, with that, it's been a pleasure to have you join me as always, and the best luck to yourself and the team for the racing this weekend. And we'll catch you again next week for the Round 8 Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day. But without further ado, it is now time for us to come to our first and only interview for today, and that is going to be Lee Horn from Sam Case with NXTGEN, our Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day as well. Let's bring him on in here, and well, he joins us now. Good evening to you, Lee. And well, what a day it has been for yourself, not just for the places you picked up today with a double podium through races 1 and 2, including the winning race number 2 in class, also 6th place in class in our final race of the day, and to top it all off, the icing on the cake, if you will, finally picking up that coveted Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day, something you've come very close to over the course of the season, but finally on the 7th time of asking, making it happen. You must be absolutely chuffed with today.
Oh, yes, I am. I'm very pleased. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you, John, for the accolade. I have been hunting for it, I must be honest. Disappointed when I've just missed out, through an understandable. Other drivers doing well as well. But finally, yes, I'm pleased to say that I've been awarded that. So yeah, I'm still on a bit of a high at the minute. Even with the P6 in the final race there, it was a good overall evening.
Oh, indeed. And well, speaking of the evening and breaking it down into its individual parts, started off with qualifying and really going into this final 4 rounds of the championship. Of course, the Pro-Am class at the moment extremely close. And well, just to give our viewers a reminder in the fact that going into today, you were P4 in the championship with 572 points. What was the best part? 25 points of a championship leader, Russell Fowler. Was there any particular target you had in mind today just for delivering at Circuit Zolder?
Yeah, beat them all. Yeah, I knew I was a little bit behind. I've kept obviously an eye on the table as we're going along. Frustratingly, obviously, yeah, it sounds bad saying that to the family, but going on a holiday and having to miss around it's very rare in my sim racing that I miss around, and so it always normally goes against me, the drop rounds, which is going to occur. This is going to be one of the seasons where I'll actually be using the drop round to my advantage, and because I wasn't here for that occasion. So yeah, the strategy was to try and be on the podium in class for each race. I sort of surpassed expectations with in race 1, albeit that I did realise it was extremely close, and it is. I mean, you could promote the top 10 in the current table at the moment all to pros, because we're all capable of performing up there in the top 10 in the overall. It's an interesting one for the organizer to look at for next season, because I think personally, I think he needs, and he's looking at a little promotion of not just maybe one, but 2, 3, or 4 drivers that are currently sat in Pro-Am that probably, including myself, of course, that should be in the pro category for next season.
Indeed, and like you say, many a performance in the Pro-Am class which is worthy of potential pro status over around, if not a whole season. And well, speaking of a performance that definitely was worthy of that status, P11 overall in qualifying today, and what equated to in terms of being in class, a P4 in class, looked as though Joseph Doble was a bit too far ahead of everybody else by comparison, but you're still able to get within earshot of your rivals.
Yeah, I knew it was always going to be intense battling around here. So I just wanted to be, from qualifying, I just wanted to be in the mix. I've actually just been out for a nice steak and a couple of beers before the racing this evening, because it's my daughter's 17th birthday. And I actually thought I was going to completely miss the round. But we got an early meal in the end. And then she popped off and went to go and watch the local football team, Plymouth Argyle, with her boyfriend. So it was left me available to come in at halfway through practice and get involved. But yeah, I knew it was going to be tough. Like I say, it turned out much better. I had some really good battling with Reese and with Alan. All pretty clean and fair right through, to be fair. I didn't really have any major issues. A couple of times I wasn't given a bit enough space and got to slow down. But that's racing. These things happen, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, indeed. And on that, with regards to enjoying the racing, of course, going into race number 1, P12 at the checkered flag, and what equated to, in the end, a P3 finish. So on the podium there, it looked very close in the first race, but of course, that first race always has a bit of a mystery around it with regards to the fact you're not quite sure what's going to happen in that first race. Do you take it more conservatively? Do you go all in? But the problem with this circuit is you have to go all in if you want to make an overtake.
Yeah, exactly. And the really difficult thing is that first 1 or 2 laps. The tyres are so cold and there's such little grip. Just the slightest bit of, going into that initial few corners too quick, or going on the outside with too much power, and you're just literally sliding off. And you can go from where you are and drop in 10 places. So, while yes, you've got to be on sort of maximum capitalization of other people's errors on cold tyres, you've also got to be very, very careful yourself. So you're sort of tiptoeing around on that first few laps, but at the same time trying to take advantage of whatever you can.
Well, indeed, and in terms of taking advantage, in the end we did see quite the battle between yourself and another late charger in the championship, Reese Watt, in the Audi RS3. And I have to ask, in terms of relative comparison, we know the Honda Civic can be very unstable over high curves, and it looked like for a lot of drivers they were in difficulty with the car, particularly at the first chicane, but not yourself. You looked like you found quite a good balance.
Well, I'm glad it looked like that, because believe me, behind the wheel here, it didn't feel like it. It was quite hairy. I was trying to be consistent, but I did feel like I was Dukes of Hazzarding sometimes without getting a 1X. But because of how poor the Honda is at taking the bigger curbs, it generally feels like you're just hitting a massive ramp and launching the car in the air. But if you get the right place, it doesn't throw you off, and you have to, with the Honda, you have to do that to keep up. Because if not, everyone else is taking the curbs and you're not. So you've got to sort of find a fair amount that you can take. But if you do take too much, it does bite you. And it bit me a couple of times in the second chicane. And the first chicane, I nearly got caught out a couple of times. Certainly in practice, I spat off many a time just trying to work out where that optimum of the maximum amount I could take was. So, it might have looked like I was very comfortable, but I was sort of on the edge of my seat each time I came to the chicanes and the big curves.
Oh, goodness me, quite the roller coaster ride. And well, speaking of a roller coaster ride, race number 2 saw you fight your way through to take victory, albeit you found yourself in a bit of a sandwich versus 2 iRace esports drivers of Alan McCain and Nick Lewins, both of them very eager to make it a 1-2 for the team.
Oh yes, I could tell that they were battling hard, and also, no doubt, as you do in your teams, you're in your own chat, and they're probably nattering away, saying, talking to each other and trying to keep me behind, which is what the racing's all about. We all do it. You do it in a fair and a firm but fair way. I was really pleased with the outcome of that in the end, because as you probably saw on that last lap, Alan just made that one mistake on the outside and caught a bit of the sand on the outside of the right-hander before the middle chicane. So that just gave me the momentum. And unfortunately, I gave him room going in, but he didn't quite give me enough room coming out, and it gave me a slowdown at 1.2. However, because we continued to battle then into the third chicane, I managed to scrub it all off before the straight going down to the hairpin. So by that point, I'd managed to then sort of keep him where I needed him to, and then had that inside line for the hairpin, and I was proper chuffed myself just to see that out, and then take the P1 in class. It was brilliant.
Well, it was fantastic racing between the two, and to see you both go side by side through the turn 7 chicane, the second chicane on circuit, where at the best it's difficult to go through there solo, let alone too wide. Definitely a heart in mouth moment for both of you as a driver and everybody watching. So taking that win forward into the final race of the day, of course a top 21 at reverse grid, one of our greatest numbers that we can possibly draw at the Lottery Bowl, and also a little bit of what was success ballast in the car. It was always going to be a bit of an uphill battle in the final race.
Yeah, I still felt reasonably confident. I mean, it was only P9 ballast, so it wasn't too bad. I've had P9 ballast and P10 ballast before. If I'm genuinely honest, I just had I didn't really even think about the ballast. You mentioned it now, reminded me that I did have it, because obviously I had to put it on the setup and put it on, or put the setup on. So it didn't really factor to me. Unfortunately, I got caught up in a couple of things. One where I got a same principle as with Alan in that middle chicane, turn 7 chicane, I think you said, where I went in giving enough room and slightly ahead, and unfortunately then just get completely chopped off and pushed across. That gave me a 1.5 second slowdown, which I had to scrub off as best I could, but that put me back a little bit. And then a little bit later on, I think it was Reese Watt and Sam Smith came together coming down to the hairpin, and I had no choice but to literally come to a stop, so I didn't obviously clatter them as well. So unfortunately that sort of pegged me back a little bit, and hence why maybe I didn't get another couple of places. I was hoping to try and get onto the back of Alan and battle with him, but no, I'm happy with the results of tonight. I think certainly the rivals that were above me, I think I've outscored them this round, which is my aim at the start of the evening. It's to try and outscore the guys that are ahead of me to close the gap. So yeah, all in all, it's been pretty good.
Oh, most definitely, and I think you've closed the gap, given you are our most consistent and highest regular finisher in the Pro-Am class today, and therefore it's only going to tighten things at the top of the table. Of course, now 3 rounds remain, and next week we're off to Japan for the Twin Ring Motegi circuit. How are you feeling for a visit to perhaps a lesser known circuit compared to most on the calendar?
Yeah, I do like the Twin Ring. Obviously there's 3 different layouts. I think we're on is it the East layout? But yes, I've always enjoyed going there in the past. On my past game, I mean, we used to race it a lot on Project Cars, Race Room, and we've done it across a couple of seasons, I think, with this touring car league that Jamie runs. So yeah, very much. Again, I'm looking forward to all the remaining races. To be honest, I just want to try my best to try and clinch the title if I can. The reason being, I don't think I'm going to be in Pro-Ams. I think that's pretty much a given. Just to touch on something, obviously listening to what John was kindly saying about me in the season, he's actually right. I found something in myself just before the season started, and it was to do with how I drove and how I set my brake balance and bias, and just how I approached my driving, and I changed it basically, and I approached my racing slightly differently for this new season. And it's nice to hear someone say that they've noticed it, and it feels that way, because I came out the box. I came out the box running. If you remember the first 2 rounds, I was literally hitting podiums for all 6 races of the first 2 rounds. I did unbelievably well. I couldn't even sort of half believe it. So yeah, I think I'm wanting to try my best to push on if I can and take the title of the Pro-Am class. However, I know that is not going to be easy, because there are at least 10 Pro-Ams that are chomping at the bit to try and do exactly the same. So I relish and look forward to the battle with the rest of the guys that I've been battling with so far this season.
Oh, likewise, we definitely do look forward to enjoying that battle and how it all concludes over the remaining rounds. And like John was saying, it's definitely something that we're noticing here in the commentary booth, in the fact that you have really come on strong since the start of the season with what was that stepped up later podiums, and well, now right in the thick of that championship battle. And all I can say, Lee, is good luck to you as this championship campaign winds on down to its natural conclusion. And well, with that in mind, just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, as usual, shout out to the sponsors. Obviously, John with Higgins Automotive, title sponsor for the series. Obviously, Mark Sykes Designs and PowerMax, Sam Cases, of course, Joyce Design, Douglas Motorsport. Anyone that likes to tune in. Yourself, Paul, for as usual, an amazing job. And Jamie, obviously, Mr. Dory himself, hosting, running what is a fantastic series.
Well, Lee, with that, it's been an absolute pleasure as always to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations today on a phenomenal set of performances and also picking up the accolade of the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day for Circuit Zolder in round 7 of season 4 of the NXTCC. We look forward to plenty more from yourself in Japan next week, but until then, have a fantastic rest of your evening and good luck in your preparations for round 8.
Thank you very much, Paul. Good night.
So hearing that there from Lee Horn for Sam Case with Next Gen, and definitely a lot of positivity shining through there from the number 36 driver, and today going into it wanting to beat all of his rivals. I mean, it's a natural answer to have when the championship is this close, but the determination you can hear in his voice definitely reflecting right now how far he's come since his debut in this series all the way back in season 1. And we're going into this season talking about the fact he's found a new level in himself in terms of how he drives the car, and it really was emphasised today in the fact that a circuit where overtaking naturally very difficult to do, he was still able to find ways to make overtakes or really get stuck into those battles, and particularly that race 2 battle with Alan McCain, whilst also having to keep the other iRacing Esports driver of Nick Clemens at bay, is really a highlight of just how strong Lee Horn's performances have been today and how they continue to go from strength to strength as the season goes on. Of course, he is battling uphill with drop score already effectively in hand, so therefore for Lee Horn right now, it is all about these final 3 rounds and just how much he can deliver at them. But given the pace he's brought here today, I think many of his rivals now will be looking and thinking that the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day for Circuit Zolder is definitely now looking very strong with time running out in the championship, and time will only tell just where he'll position himself come the end of round number 8. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. Oh, goodness me, we have a bit of a screen there, which is a bit of an error. We've clicked on that in error, it would seem. But we only had our one interview today, and that was in the form of Lee Horn for Sam Cases with Next Gen in the Prime class. Unfortunately, no other drivers available for interview, and I do believe it may be in the fact that many of the drivers getting themselves now cooled down and ready for the task head going into round number 8. But still, thank you very much to Lee Horn there for being available for interview today. And well, the Sam Case with Next Gen driver will be on circuit next week, racing in the Prime class still. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the Next Gen racing community, perhaps you're sat there right now thinking that you want to be on the grid for a future season of the NXTCC, or you just want to know more about our other ongoing leagues and Next Gen racing, well, to find out about all that and plenty more, the best place to go to is our official website. That's at nextgenracing.co.uk, and as our website does appear on screen now, it's the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. We've been hosting leagues on a variety of platforms, both console and PC, for the best part now of almost 17 years, albeit we're now focused more on PC, particularly on the iRacing platform, but we'd love to have you become part of the community and join us out on the circuit. Indeed, it doesn't matter whether you're an esports professional all the way down to a rookie, everybody is welcome. And indeed, make sure, if you can, to join the community and get on the grid with us. But if you don't want to necessarily go to our website, the alternative, of course, is you can follow us on social media, and the best place to do so is via our official Facebook group, and that may be found at facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing, where you can find out all about our ongoing and upcoming leagues, but also you can get in touch with our staff and our administrators and find out a little bit more about us all behind the scenes, particularly the fact that whilst we may race on the virtual circuit, a good number of us are volunteer track marshals on the real circuit in the United Kingdom, and also some of us are race drivers in the real world of motorsport as well, indeed from all walks of life, and you can find out all about us there on the official Facebook group. We'd also like to take this moment to say thank you to our title sponsor for this season, and that is Higgins Automotive. And, well, their web address there for their Facebook page on screen. Do make sure to check them out. But if you are in the market for a car that is as good as new, then Higgins Automotive is the place to go to. They're specialists in car restoration, and the team's meticulous efforts have seen many a car go from salvage to sale faster than you can do 0 to 60. So if you'd like to know more about Higgins Automotive and see what stock they have available, be sure to check out their page on Facebook. Link available on screen there once again. But now, ladies and gentlemen, attention turns to round number 8. Next week, at the same time on Tuesday the 10th of October 2023, our drivers will be taking on the Grand Prix layout of the Twin Ring Motegi circuit. It's lesser known compared to most of its peers on the calendar, but the one thing it is known for is its ability to generate very close racing from corner to corner and lap to lap. It is a circuit ram-packed with hairpins and sharp right-angle corners, and that means there are plenty of opportunities for overtaking. And we're only 3 rounds left to go, and both the overall and the Prime Drivers' Championships wide open, and on top of that, the Teams Championship now going to be ever closer between our top 3 teams. There has not been a better time for our drivers to take on Twin Ring Motegi and see if they can set themselves up with only 2 rounds to go after that. But who exactly will leave Japan on a high? We'll find out in a week's time. Until then, we've been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit in a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.